Chapter 777. The parachute curtain that Xianxia was holding tightly slipped from her palms. She was so shocked that she forgot about the fact that she was exposed. After roaring, the great earthquake tremor suddenly crawled on the ground. Then, with an explosive force that was completely out of proportion to its size and appearance, it used both its hands and feet to brazenly rush towards Qin Guang and Xianxia. In fact, at this time the best choice for Qin Guang was to turn his head and dodge to the side. But he couldn't dodge. Xianxia seemed to be unable to move at this time. He didn't have the time to turn around and pick her up. The name of this great earthquake tremor was very cumbersome. It looked quite stiff, but it was actually super agile. Damn, isn't it just a 3-meter-tall stone man? Although I don't know what kind of tricks it has, I don't believe that my Kirin arm doesn't have the power to fight. Qin Guang took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He accumulated strength in his whole body. Other than the unfinished chest and abdomen, the muscles and other parts of his body seemed to be rapidly expanding. Yes, I have nowhere to retreat. The lowly is right behind me. Come on. Dang dang. AI. Why am I inexplicably flying? The stone man hasn't arrived yet? What happened? So fast. Freedom is the direction of running with the wind. Chasing the power of thunder and lightning? Qin Guang turned his body sideways. His whole body was parallel to the ground. He raised his head and looked forward. He could only see the forest and the road in front of him rapidly retreating. The stone man behind him was still roaring non-stop. The sound of its running on the ground was loud, but the distance between them wasn't shortened. The whistling wind blew on his face. This early morning breeze would be too beautiful if there wasn't a great earthquake tremor howling as it chased after them. But what is going on? Could it be that my superpower awakened temporarily and I obtained the ability to fly? Not good. Xianxia is still here. Qin Guang turned his head and looked at the position behind him. It was Xianxia's waist, breasts, 2 white hemispheres, and below, cough cough. In any case, something swayed in front of him as he ran. Fortunately, the little lowly's body was tight. Even when she was running with all her might, her pair of breasts that had broken free from the restraints were not thrown up and down. It did not hinder her movement. However, from this special angle it was quite pleasing to the eye. Are you stupid? Do you have the strength of such a huge stone man? What the hell is this? The little girl, who was completely naked, hugged Qin Guang by the waist. Her right hand grabbed his waist and locked him tightly in the crook of her arm. Although her hands weren't long enough, they were still able to hold on to the other side of Qin Guang's waist. Can you blame me? I see you lying on the ground naked and unable to move. I was already mentally prepared to fight with the great earthquake tremor. Why didn't you tell me you could move earlier? Qin Guang casually argued. Although Lolita usually looked delicate, she was truly worthy of her title as a pinnacle bone force expert when she brought out her true ability. Her skinny body had nuclear power hidden in it, and her legs were practically moving at a rapid pace. Xianxia snorted disdainfully. Aren't you looking down on me too much? Hey, I am at the peak of bone strength. Besides, my whole body was weak because I was afraid that you would lose your dignity as a man, so I deliberately pretended to make you happy, okay? Hey, you think you can make this girl weak all over with 2 needles? Don't joke around. Qin Guang was unconvinced. Hey, look at my bad temper. Do you know who you are talking to? You are facing the strongest pile driver in history. You really didn't believe it. It's not like I don't know how to act. If what you did just now was an act, then I'll give you 10 Oscars. This little lowly must have used some unknown secret method to recover her mobility in such a short period of time and run faster than usual. Wait, what did you say just now? The great earthquake tremor? How do you know that monster's name? Xianxia suddenly reacted. Qin Guang decisively decided to lie to her. I just gave it a new name. How is it? Is it cool? Xianxia was speechless. Qin Guang continued to change the topic. Alright, why don't you put me down? I can run by myself. It doesn't look good for you to run naked like this. What if you bump into someone? As the 2 of them ran away in a panic, they had unknowingly run away from Wuxia town for 2 to 3 minutes. They had even come to the side of the road and passed by a few houses. But the strange thing was, from beginning to end, the 2 of them didn't see another living person. No, I can't run far, Xianxia suddenly said. As soon as she finished speaking, she ran even faster. What the hell? Qin Guang was puzzled. Xianxia coughed lightly and seemed to have become a little weak. Okay, I won't lie to you. I really didn't have any strength just now. I was scared by the stone man, so I didn't think too much. I ate 2 empowerment pills. Although I recovered my mobility for a short time, I will be completely out of strength after a while. And then, Qin Guang had a faint headache, but he couldn't blame Xin Qin. He, who knew a little about the inside story, was scared to the point of peeing his pants by the tremor earth. She, a little girl who didn't know anything, could calm down in such a short time, make a decision and decisively run away with him in her arms. It was really not easy. We are definitely not this monster's match. I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, this is it. This monster's speed is not much slower than me after taking the empowerment pill. When I run out of strength later, you can run by yourself. What about you? Xin Qin said half-jokingly. Don't worry about me. I'm your deputy director. Let the leader go first and I'll be responsible for bringing up the rear. Qin Guang broke free from her. Nonsense. Qin Guang used too much force and Xin Qin almost lost her balance and fell to the ground. What are you doing? Qin Guang turned around and carried her in his arms. Nothing. I should be the one asking you. What the hell is the leader going first? You can't stop taking the medicine. Xin Qin panicked. I'm not joking with you. Put me down. You can't run away. Qin Guang curled his lips in disdain. Can I trouble you to take a look? I'm sorry, but I seem to be running a little faster than you. Xin Qin turned her head away from Qin Guang. Indeed, the stone man chasing them seemed to be getting further and further away. Qin Guang asked again, how is it? I didn't lie to you, right? Xin Qin nodded and didn't say anything else. Perhaps because she didn't have to run anymore, the breath that she had been holding in was suddenly released. Her body suddenly became limp, and this time she really didn't even have the strength to lift her arms. Qin Guang, on the other hand, didn't blush as he ran with her in his arms. Soldiers were trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single moment. Wasn't this the day that he had painstakingly trained Elis legs for? I'm the best at running, so let's go. As they ran, Qin Guang took some time to say, the side effects of this empowerment pill are a little strong. Xin Qin said weakly, actually if I only took 1 pill it shouldn't be a problem. But when I was taking the medicine just now, maybe my hand was shaking too much, so I poured out 2 pills at once. I didn't look carefully at the time and stuffed them all into my mouth. The other one seems to have a quality problem or something. It's very powerful and takes effect very quickly, but the side effects seem to be very strong too. Qin Guang immediately understood. All right, it seemed that this invincible supreme martial artist's bad luck had hit Xin Qin's head again. It was just like the time when she had taken the wrong bag when she jumped. She was supposed to be the one to take the blame first. I'm really thankful that I have a scapegoat like you by my side. As the saying goes, the first beat of a drum, the second beat of a drum, the third beat of a drum, the second beat of a drum, and the third beat of a drum will be exhausted. He originally wanted to compete with this earthshaker in terms of strength and put his life on the line. But once he started running, he really didn't know what was going on. His whole body became inert and he couldn't stop at all. Running away was addictive. In between, he had once mustered up the courage to turn back and fight again, but then he looked at Xin Qin, who had turned into a pile of mud in his arms, and turned back to glance at the earthshaker. He saw that when this guy passed by an electric pole, its shoulder was accidentally brushed by it, and the electric pole made of cement collapsed with a loud bang. It made one's eyelids twitch wildly. Old Master Guang said that after careful consideration, the old man might really not be its match. Damn, this thing's strength was a little unreasonable. After running for a few minutes with Xin Qin in his arms, although Qin Guang was faster and gradually shook off the earthshaker, this damn thing seemed to have a built-in navigation system. Even though they couldn't see each other in their line of sight, it still firmly followed the correct path and chased relentlessly. Where do we run to now? This stone man doesn't seem to get tired. Qin Guang grunted. It's fine, I'm thinking of a way. Xin Qin raised another question. Only the heavens knew what was driving the earthshaker. In any case, Qin Guang had been running for his life for so long, but it still maintained a constant speed and followed closely behind as if it didn't get tired at all. Now that things had come to this, Qin Guang had no other ideas. He could only rely on the telepathic connection between him and the heavenly Holy Grail to run straight to where his backpack had landed. He would arrive in about a minute or two. He would first get the unlucky heavenly Holy Grail back in his hands and see if there was any other way. At this moment the most awkward person was actually Xianxia. She had been naked since they were in mid-air. In broad daylight her and Qin Guang's situation was really too embarrassing. Unfortunately they didn't even have time to catch their breath, let alone find clothes to wear. Fortunately they hadn't bumped into a pedestrian or a car along the way. They didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. It's all my fault for being muddle-headed. If I didn't eat the wrong empowerment pill I would be able to run with you right now and things wouldn't be like this. Xianxia blamed herself. Qin Guang didn't care. It's fine. You're unlucky but I won't be. Don't worry about those details. Grab my neck tightly. I'm going to jump into that ditch. After saying that, Qin Guang rose into the air. Xianxia stretched out her soft hand and barely hooked her neck. His feet landed heavily on the ground. He didn't care about Xianxia's white and tender chest slapping his face. He adjusted his body slightly and ran forward again. Then there was a crack. What's wrong? Even Xianxia could hear a cracking sound coming from his body. Cold sweat dripped down Qin Guang's forehead. If I said I sprained my ankle would you believe me? If I believed you then why are you still running? Why else? I have to run even if my leg is broken, okay? Damn the invincible supreme bad luck. It was even cooler than version 1.0's supreme bad luck. Xianxia, the scapegoat, didn't manage to bear the full brunt of it. Please don't cause any more trouble, right? Spraining his ankle hurt but he could grit his teeth and endure it. He couldn't die here, right? It was obvious that Tremor Earthshaker couldn't communicate with him. The backpack was getting closer and closer, but after spraining his ankle Qin Guang slowed down slightly. Not only was he unable to increase the distance between him and the stone man, but he was even gradually caught up. Finally, as the feeling in his heart grew stronger, the backpack seemed to be right in front of him. Seeing that the dawn was right in front of him, his foot no longer hurt and his leg was no longer sore. Even the leg hair that fluttered in the wind became glossier. F***ck. Why is it hanging on the tree? Hugging Xianxia, Qin Guang stood under a tree that required 7 to 8 people to encircle. Raising his head, he saw his beloved backpack hanging on the branch of the tree, laughing at his misfortune. There was no time to hesitate. Qin Guang flipped his hand and threw Xianxia onto his back. Do you still have strength in your arms? Hug my neck tightly, it's time to climb the tree. Although Xianxia had no idea what Qin Guang planned to do, she could only trust him unconditionally. She mustered up her strength and hugged his shoulders tightly. Okay. When Xianxia hugged him tightly, Qin Guang climbed up the yellow fruit tree. When he was about 10 meters above the ground, Xianxia saw that he was sweating from exhaustion and asked, "Are you going to get something from the treetop? Why don't I wait for you down there? That thing is coming, you won't make it in time." Left with no choice, Qin Guang put Xianxia down and let her hug the tree trunk. Then he used the strength of his Qilin arm to carve a mark on the tree trunk and rushed up like a rock climber. The running and roaring sound of the stone man were getting closer and closer. Qin Guang was getting closer and closer to his heavenly holy grail. Got it. Qin Guang grabbed the backpack and was about to celebrate when the unpleasant roar came from under the tree. He looked down and saw that the thing was less than 50 meters away from the yellow fruit tree. He put the backpack on his back and slid down. When he landed next to Xianxia, the stone man was already under the tree. What should I do? What should I do now? Xianxia, who had finally calmed down, was in a daze again. Qin Guang looked at her first, then took out the heavenly holy grail satchel from the backpack and tied it around his waist. Don't worry, I'm here. Xianxia screamed, it's going to hit the tree. With a loud bang, the thick yellow fruit tree was hit by the earth tremor with its shoulder. The branches shook and leaves flew everywhere. The 2 people on the tree were on the verge of falling. What was more frightening was that the tree trunk looked like it was going to break. They couldn't let it hit the tree again or the tree would definitely fall. Qin Guang squeezed the heavenly holy grail in his satchel. I don't believe it. There's always a way out. The old man is the great savior. You can't force me to die here so easily. He stood up abruptly and took out a watermelon-shaped military knife from the backpack hanging on the tree trunk. F***ck. I'll kill you. He was mad. With a roar he jumped down from the tree. Xianxia screamed, no. Qin Guang, who was flying in the air, waved his hand heroically. It's okay. Hide in the tree. I'll lure it away. Actually, he wasn't as irrational as he looked. This unlucky stone man's target should be him. He would try to land first. If he couldn't withstand it, he would run. If he lured this thing away, at least Xianxia would be able to escape first. If he could defeat it, forget it, that didn't seem very realistic. Qin Guang held the knife hilt with both hands and pointed the tip downwards. He was aiming at the earth tremor's skull, if it even had one. Die. Creak. Qin Guang didn't land on the back of the stone man as he wished. When he was falling in the air, he was scratched on the back by a special branch that grew out of the tree trunk. Not only did it leave a bloody mark on his back, but he was also hung on the tree trunk. Swaying, he was hanging about 2 to 3 meters in front of the earth tremor. Ah. Hi. Nice to meet you. Silently putting the knife aside, Qin Guang waved his hand at the faceless stone man in front of him. So awkward. The invincible supreme being's bad luck was really strong. I'm so unlucky today. Chapter 778. Even though his tone was very gentle and communicative, like an experienced diplomat, and not at all inferior to Su Qin and Zhang Yi, it was useless. But it was useless. The great earthquake tremor couldn't understand what he was saying at all. Summer insects couldn't talk about ice. A sudden howl came from the stone head. Then the monster swung its thick right arm like lightning and slapped heavily at Qin Guang's shoulder. Xianxia screamed from the tree. She stood up and wanted to jump down from the tree to help, but she could not make it in time. Qin Guang was joking with the great earthquake tremor, but from the moment he was hung on the tree branch, he had been secretly accumulating power and preparing to receive this big guy's full power attack. His body turned to the side, his hands holding the military blade horizontally. The tip of the blade faced the palm of the great earthquake tremor. With a clang, Qin Guang was sent flying sideways. The tough military blade embedded in the stone man's palm and passed through. As for Qin Guang, he flew 17 or 18 meters away and rolled 3 or 4 times on the ground. His Qilin arm was in so much pain that he had lost feeling. If it weren't for the fact that he had trained his chest muscles before, and if it weren't for the fact that he cleverly diverted the force when he was hit, and that he relied on his well-developed chest muscles and Qilin arms, as well as his exquisite posture, he was afraid that his entire body would have been smashed to pieces. He had just barely managed to stand up when the great earthquake tremor pounded its chest again. With a howl, it continued to charge at Qin Guang. The military blade embedded in its palm did not seem to affect it at all. Did not seem to feel it. Qin Guang was dumbstruck. This monster was too crazy. It was not injured at all. Then how should I deal with it? Never mind, I'll run first. Stupid stone man, you want to deal with me with your personality? Goodbye. After making up his mind, Qin Guang turned and fled after cursing. It was fine as long as Xianxia was fine. On the tree branch, how could Xianxia not know what Qin Guang was planning? She was extremely anxious, but there was nothing she could do. Xianxia clenched her fists tightly, feeling both regretful and hateful. If she hadn't mistakenly taken 2 empowerment pills, if one of them hadn't expired, she wouldn't be so weak right now. She wanted to help, but she knew that it was impossible for her to catch up with Qin Guang, let alone deal with this stone man. If she didn't drag him down, Qin Guang would be able to run faster and he might even have a chance to get rid of this damn thing. No matter how unwilling she was, Xianxia also understood that her best choice was to stay on the tree and quickly think of all ways to get rid of the aftereffects of the vigor pill and restore her strength. But his leg was injured. Sure enough, although Qin Guang was still very fast, when his right foot landed on the ground, it gave off an uncoordinated feeling. It was clear that he had just sprained his foot and the injury was getting worse. At this moment, Xianxia was anxious. But Qin Guang was even more anxious. Using himself as bait to save Xianxia's life, this kind of impassioned and fearless thing was done. He didn't regret it and it was impossible for him to change his mind, but it didn't mean that he was really not afraid of death. As the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, he was actually more afraid of death than anyone else. The old man's journey was the sea of stars and the 3,000 worlds. How could he die in the hands of a mere stone man like you? Lily, help me. It was useless, calling for help was really useless. No matter how hard he shouted in his heart or with his mouth, Lily didn't give him any response. He didn't know whether she was pretending to be offline or she really couldn't hear Qin Guang's call for help. Ever since the heavenly Holy Grail hinted about the integration of the real world and reality, everything seemed to be out of Qin Guang's control. He began to panic. After all, spraining his ankle previously brought some inconvenience. At first he ran faster than when he was carrying Xianxia, but slowly he didn't know how long he had run but he slowed down. I won't really die here, will I? Invincible supreme bad luck, double checkpoints, 10 times the strength of the world of punishment, the integration of the real world and reality, turning the whole universe into a world in a cup. Seemed like this was really too much. Now I really have to pray for more blessings. My blessings, where are you? There's a house in front. There's someone. Unknowingly I ran to Wuxia town like a headless fly. Go and ask for help? Save it. Qin Guang turned in another direction without thinking. He still couldn't lure this monster into the crowd. With the destructive power of this thing, it could kill gods and Buddhas. His own knife had become an ornament in its palm, so it wouldn't make any difference if it was replaced with a gun. His limping was also quite strenuous. The earthquake-like footsteps behind him were getting closer and closer. Because of his change of direction, the distance between him and the great earthquake tremor was shortened a lot. I'm probably going to die this time, right? Qin Guang thought so in his heart as he staggered as he ran. Of all the mistakes he made, he shouldn't have underestimated the power of the world of punishment. The heavenly Holy Grail really didn't lie to me. It said 10 times and it really was 10 times. It was really strong. Leaving the main road and the town, he didn't know where to run to. Liuli, whom he relied on, also didn't move. He really racked his brains but still couldn't think of a way to escape. This stone man was extremely strong and fast, and it was not afraid of knives and spears. He didn't bring any powerful weapons with him either. As the saying goes, when a person is unlucky, even drinking water has to fill the gaps between the teeth. As he was running, he didn't know which wicked guy spilled a ladle of water on the dirt road and stepped on it with his right foot. He was already a little unstable to begin with, so he slipped and fell on the ground. He staggered sideways on the ground, dodging the heavy stomp of the great earthquake tremor. He crawled up with a roll and continued to run forward. Damn it! Don't mess with me like this. If I really died, wouldn't everything be over? Qin Guang cursed in his heart. This is so frustrating. If I wasn't bald, my hair would have turned white. As the saying goes, heaven never bars one's way. There must be a way. It's just that I didn't think of it. Wiping the muddy water off his face, Qin Guang thought so. Wait, water? Oh my god. Really seems to work. Then the problem is, where do I find water? I have to at least find water that can drown this stone man. Suddenly, the heavenly Holy Grail bubbled again. The conditions for exchange have been met. Does the Redeemer want to use faith points to exchange? Zai. What the hell is the conditions for exchange? Qin Guang cursed in his heart as he couldn't wait to communicate with the heavenly Holy Grail again. Unlike before, he could finally establish a connection with the heavenly Holy Grail this time. However, there wasn't any exchange list that appeared in front of his eyes. Something appeared in his heart out of nowhere. Looking at the small pond floating in his mind like a mirage, he was speechless. So the so-called conditions for exchange, to put it bluntly, was that he had to think of it first. Then the punishment realm would think that he had obtained the qualifications to exchange and send this thing to him. To put it bluntly, the heavenly Holy Grail was encouraging him to use his brain to think of a solution. As long as he came up with an idea first, this unlucky Grail would make his wish come true. It's just that the price is a little expensive. 660,000 faith points to exchange for a little pond. Calculating with his fingers, alright, this unlucky Holy Grail might have purposely said it this way because he just happened to have that many left. Come on. My beloved little pond, it's worth your faith points. Flush. In the next second, the soil under his feet disappeared into thin air, and his whole body fell into the water with a splash. Although it happened in a hurry, but as an old pirate that had roamed the sea of fleeting for countless years, he instantly reacted after entering the water. He quickly slapped the water like a carp, rolling and continuing to scurry forward, dodging the big palm of the earth tremor behind him. The water splashed and the waves pushed him forward again, pushing him forward by a large margin. Although it was called a little pond, its diameter was actually tens of meters. Qin Guang scurried forward. From time to time he would pop his head out of the water to look back. He saw that the originally arrogant earth tremor was half submerged in the water. Only its stone head was still above the water surface. This damned thing continued to stubbornly move forward in Qin Guang's direction as if it didn't have any intelligence. But its speed was a lot slower, even slower than Qin Guang's swimming speed. Apart from that, the rolling dust on its body had all fallen into the water. Of course it was gone. The ability to continuously attract the rocks and sand on the ground to itself seemed to be the innate skill of this great earthquake tremor. Although it looked like its entire body was a solid block of rock, it was actually a combination of sand and a huge amount of small rocks under the control of its innate skill. Its body looked solid, but in fact it was semi-mobile, which allowed it to have an almost indestructible body while having infinite strength. But when its environment became a pond, no stones and mud on the ground were sucked up by it. It could only suck a little mud from the bottom of the pond, but at the same time the stones on its body still maintained the trend of disintegration. This pond that cost Qin Guang 660,000 faith points to exchange for cut off the earth tremor's seemingly perfect internal and external circulation, causing it to only be able to go out and not go in. At the same time, due to the mud constantly being sucked into its body, its movements became more and more sluggish. Qin Guang brought this thing around in the pond for 5 to 6 minutes before it finally stopped moving. It bubbled and sank into the water. After a short while, the entire pond was dyed yellow, as if a truck of sand had been poured into it. Qin Guang lay on the shore and let out a long sigh of relief. It was finally done. Fortunately, although this thing had infinite strength, its intelligence was a bit lacking. The brain was the #1 productive force. My productivity is even higher, and I still have an unscrupulous profiteer to sell me a pond at this time. In fact, he knew that he had also made use of the rules of the punishment realm. Although he was not sure if this stone man was a real living creature, there was no doubt that if it wanted to live, it definitely could not go into the water. But this stone man that was chasing him was not like this, even if this pond suddenly appeared under its feet because of his exchange, causing it to fall directly in. But according to common sense, it should have tried to leave at the first moment. But not only did it not do so, it persevered in chasing him until it completely died in the water. This meant that the tremor earth must have been restricted by the rules of the punishment realm, and had to chase him relentlessly like an arrow that had been shot. Thinking about it carefully, it died quite miserably. Qin Guang was about to turn back towards the direction of the Huang Guishu, but he suddenly saw a flash of something shining on the surface of the water. He hurriedly dived into the water again and swam in that direction. Swimming over was also due to luck, or perhaps the pond that he had summoned was helping him. The crystal that should have sunk was pushed up by the rolling water bubbles. Qin Guang grabbed it in his hand and looked at it. It was a sparkling and translucent light yellow crystal, about the size of a fingernail. He was immediately overjoyed. According to the old man's many years of experience playing online games, this must be an item that dropped after defeating the boss. Of course. He hurriedly put it into his bosom as if it was a treasure. At this moment, the heavenly Holy Grail's notification sounded again. Congratulations, Redeemer, for successfully killing the Tremor Earth. You have cleared the second stage, the Invincible Supremacy Bad Luck, and the third stage, the Great Tremor Earth. As Qin Guang swam to the side of the pond, he sighed in his heart. The power of this fusion stage was really not just for show. Fortunately, the old man was quick-witted and survived. Then what about the reward? What was the reward? There is no reward. He didn't know if the heavenly Holy Grail understood his inner complaints, but it actually gave him such an extra reminder. According to this stinky Grail's usual character, it shouldn't have told Qin Guang this. But it wasn't that there was no good news. The long-lost Azure's voice finally sounded in his heart. Yo, Qin Guang, you're still alive? Azure's voice carried an indescribable sense of surprise, but it made Qin Guang's heart feel even colder. The more you act like this, the clearer it is telling me that you really didn't know about my situation during that period of time, and weren't protecting me. To think that I kept thinking that if I was really at the end of my rope, you would definitely come and save me, but the result was not like that at all. The greatest sorrow in the world was to always think that there was still 100 yuan in the left pocket of your pants, and happily order 3 side dishes at a restaurant, only to find that there was a hole in the bottom of your left pocket when you paid the bill. At this moment he felt like this. His greatest trump card actually didn't exist at all. What a sad story. Come on, don't look so wronged. It's the realm of punishment that's 10 times stronger than before. It's not that easy to fool. Before you can get through the first 3 stages, I really can't do anything. The heavenly Holy Grail has also completely cut off my divine power. Qin Guang climbed ashore and sighed. Forget it. From now on we won't lose contact, right? Yes, but I still can't bring you any substantial help. I can only answer some of your questions. I have 10,000 questions to ask you, okay? Speak. What is the tremor Earth? Isn't this on Earth? Isn't this the real world? Where did this thing come from? Lioli chuckled. The real world is the same as the realm of destiny. It's one of the special worlds of the heavenly Holy Grail. The last time you encountered the realm of punishment, the real world had already fused with your real world once. However, the strength of the fusion at that time wasn't enough, so it didn't cause much change to the real world. This is already the second fusion, and the degree of fusion is much deeper than the last time. So, it's normal for some strange things that you don't recognize to appear. As Qin Guang limped forward, he asked, "Why did you say it so casually?" Lioli's image appeared vaguely in his mind. She was shrugging her shoulders. Because this kind of elemental creature, I've already stopped playing with it when I was in the divine realm. It's even more common than the ants in your world. I really thank you for your knowledge. You're welcome. Then after I finish this realm of punishment, the power of the real world will return, right? Qin Guang asked cautiously. But out of his expectation, Luli replied in an uncertain tone, "Probably, maybe, probably, maybe? Don't scare me. You're not sure?" Liuli humphed. "Didn't I say it already? The heavenly Holy Grail is one of the 10 great artifacts of the divine realm. After it was created, you're still its first master. You're just a fresh lab rat. I'm not sure what exactly will happen." Qin Guang silently hammered his heart. The old man was a sinner. If this damn thing really appeared everywhere in the world, then wouldn't he become a sinner that destroyed humanity? You don't have to worry about this. The range of elemental creatures' appearance is currently limited to your mission area, which is near this utopia. The power of the Holy Grail in other places isn't strong enough to support the birth of elemental creatures. Liuli clearly heard the nagging in Qin Guang's heart. At least she said some good news. Alright, then tell me what this thing is. Qin Guang took out the piece of crystal that he had just picked up from his pocket and asked excitedly. In his heart he was thinking, quickly tell me what kind of heart of earth this is. After eating it, I can increase my experience or obtain the blessings of Mother Earth or something. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to obtain a special ability. He was just a little unhappy. This crystal seemed to have signs of melting after being soaked in water. It seemed like the quality of this heart of earth wasn't good. That's right, this was at least a defective heart of earth. Liuli glanced at it. In my opinion, this is a lemon-flavored fruit candy. Qin Guang was speechless. Damn it, even the unlucky tremor earth had to set me up after its death. It's fine if you suck stones, but why the heck did you even suck fruit candy? Chapter 779. 30 seconds later he felt a little more at ease. I feel that fruit candy isn't bad either. It's been a long time since I've eaten candy with such a pure taste. It's really sweet when held in my mouth. Also, a fruit candy that could be carefully hidden in the body of that stone person must have some kind of connotation. Liuli spoke so casually just now, but she was actually joking with him. At the very least, after holding the candy in his mouth for a short while, his wound felt warm and cozy, as if there were 7 or 8 skilled female masseuses massaging him at the same time. Before he even reached the yellow fruit tree, his sprained ankle had miraculously and rapidly healed. Not only that, the bloody wound on his back caused by the tree branch when he jumped down from the yellow fruit tree had also mysteriously disappeared. When he touched the skin on his back, it was smooth and delicate, just like a newborn baby. Barbara's shower gel, anyone who used it would know. This feeling reminded him of one of the lines from one of the 12 TV commercials that he had filmed some time ago. In short, the speed at which the wound healed was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. He was a little unconvinced, so he simply picked up a tree branch from the roadside and fiercely scratched his arm. It was a little painful, but watching as the skin on his left arm that was scratched healed as if time was flowing in reverse, the feeling was really unbearable. You annoying little liar, this is definitely not an ordinary fruit candy. Can't you be a little more serious at a time like this? Qin Guang fiercely ridiculed Liuli in his heart. This big sister really doesn't know when to joke. Liuli curled her lips. Didn't I say it before? It's lemon-flavored, so of course it's not ordinary. Alright, I won't talk nonsense with you anymore. Originally, this was indeed just an ordinary fruit candy, but because the great earthquake tremor lacked a core when it was created, the punishment realm randomly found a crystal-clear object, which is this candy as its core. Although it doesn't have any benefits like Mother Earth's blessing or experience points, after you eat this candy, you will indeed have the same regenerative ability as the great earthquake tremor. What? Does that mean that I've also cultivated an immortal body? I'm invincible. When we get out, I want to beat up 10 Wenwens. Dream on. You're now in the punishment realm and Utopia is your mission location. The surrounding area is filled with an extremely dense power of the Holy Grail. Be it the Tremor Earth or the promotional pond you just bought, they're all the power of the Holy Grail contained in the real world. The regenerative ability you have now is also from the same source. When your mission is over, if this regenerative ability is still with you, it means that the real world has completely integrated with your real world. Then I'm afraid that for the rest of your life, you'll have to hunt elemental creatures all over the world. After all, this is all your fault. Do you want that? Qin Guang only considered it for 2 seconds. Oh, what kind of joke was this? Elemental creatures running all over the world? Wouldn't they tire themselves to death? Moreover, the name of the real world sounded so domineering. It was definitely not just about elemental creatures. God knew if there were any other tricks. For example, the werewolves of the West, the Vatican, the Avengers of the United States, the X-Men or the Indian totem gods, the 3 artifacts of the Yamata no Orochi, the Yasukani no Makatama, or the membrane mages, the Atlantean civilization, the Mayans, or even the legendary Chiyu and the Yellow Emperor in the ancient times of Wuxia. If these things became reality from legends like the elemental creatures, the scene would be too beautiful to look at directly, okay? So, it was really not bad for him to be like this. It was not unacceptable to only maintain the regenerative ability for a period of time. At least he was in the punishment realm now. He had just dealt with the Tremor Earth, and none of the 3 main storylines had been completed. This meant that the danger was not over yet. Who knew when this test would end and what else was waiting for him? An additional regenerative ability meant an additional life-saving trump card, an additional guarantee of survival. He trotted all the way back to the yellow fruit tree. Looking up, he saw Xianxia sliding down the tree stiffly in her change of clothes. Qin Guang's own backpack had already been thrown to the ground by her. The time was too short and she had not recovered well. Perhaps she was even weaker than an ordinary person. Her whole body was still weak. She clearly had strength, but she just could not use it. When she was sliding down, she lost her grip a few times and almost fell headfirst. She was very careful but also very persistent. She was fully focused and highly nervous. She moved down bit by bit. Every time she moved, she had to find a place on the mottled trunk for a long time that she could land or use her hands to hold on. She was the genius disciple of the Thousand Despair sect. Although she could not say that she could fly over eaves and run on walls, she was still a person who could move as lightly as a swallow. Now she had to act like a delicate lady when she got down from the tree. It was very sad. In fact, the best choice for her at this moment was to stay on the tree and wait until she had almost recovered. Then she would try to get down from the tree. However, she did not do that. Qin Guang had been running away for 10 to 20 minutes. The sound of the great earthquake tremor was getting further and further away with him. Previously, she could still hear the roar from afar, but it gradually disappeared. Her heart suddenly became empty. She did not know whether it was Qin Guang who had been dealt with or the stone man who had been dealt with by Qin Guang. If Qin Guang really died here today, he would have died for her. The image of Qin Guang being pressed to the ground and beaten by the terrifying stone man appeared in her mind. The more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. The more she thought about it, the more flustered she became. He was scaring herself. As she moved down slowly, her eyes became more and more moist. Tears gushed out and blurred her vision. Suddenly, maybe because her vision was too blurred, she grabbed the wrong place and pulled a loose piece of bark. With a creak, the bark cracked and her whole body fell down from the tree on her back. She was about 3 or 4 meters above the ground. As soon as Xianxia turned over, she stuck out her toes and planned to step on the tree trunk with force. Then she turned 180 degrees in the air so as not to hit her head on the ground. Although she was a little weak as a martial artist at the peak of bone strength, this level of floor exercise was still a piece of cake. Unless, she missed her step. Although Qin Guang's bad luck of being invincible was gone, Xianxia obviously forgot to look at the almanac when she went out today. Maybe it was because she had been unlucky for a long time that the inertia could not be pulled back in a short time. She seemed to step out elegantly, but unfortunately she stepped on an empty tree hole. Ah. Well, without the fulcrum to exert force, even Xianxia could do nothing. She screamed and fell to the ground directly. She could only stretch her hands forward desperately, trying to use her hands to slow down the force before her head hit the ground. Under normal circumstances, falling from such a height was like drinking soup for her, and she could do whatever she wanted. But now her hands were weak and she might not be able to bear it. Alas, this time I will be seriously injured even if I don't die. I still want to help. I am really a useless person. Just as she was thinking about this, she suddenly felt that the back of her clothes was lifted, and her whole body spun half a circle in the air. When she came back to her senses, she was already in a warm and strong arms. Am I dreaming? When she fell down, her blood flowed backward. Then she was lifted up and spun around. It was all thanks to her high martial arts skills that her blood vessels did not explode. However, her head was dizzy and muddled and she could not run. Being carried by someone, if it were not for the familiar body odor of Guang, she probably would have thought that she was being molested. She opened her sleepy eyes and vaguely saw a hazy figure. The morning sun happened to be behind this person's head, gilding his eyes with a halo. Especially his bald head. It was so shiny that he looked like a Buddha descending to the world on TV. Why are you so handsome? At this moment, Guang was terrified by Xianxia's expression. She couldn't have gone mad, right? You are my most important scapegoat. What can I do without you? Are you okay? Guang tried to make his tone more gentle. Xianxia shook her head in a daze. No. I'm fine. What's wrong with you? Don't scare me. Xianxia rubbed her temples and became a little more clear-headed. It's not a big problem. I'm just a little stunned by your handsomeness. He let Xianxia sit under the tree and meditate for a few minutes before she finally returned to normal. Go. Hurry to the town and meet with them. Guang threw the backpack to Xianxia. Here, carry it. Xianxia did not react for a moment. Carry me? She silently complained in her heart. Suddenly she felt that he was not a gentleman at all. Guang snorted. Of course. Otherwise, how am I going to carry you? Oh. So that was it. Hence the two of them became Guang carrying Xianxia and Xianxia carrying the backpack. They jogged all the way to Wuto town. Xianxia, can we discuss something? What's the matter? Can you give me your pants? I only have this one. From the time they had parachuted down until now, old Master Guang had refueled in the air, saved people in the air, landed perfectly and passed 3 levels in a row. It seemed like an amazing feat, but in fact he had only been wearing a pair of CK underwear. It was fine when they had not bumped into anyone, but now that they were about to enter Wuto town, he had to stroll in with his lower body half naked. It was a little shameful. What was even more shameful was that although this shameless little loli was wearing the old man's clothes, she was still naked inside. She was lying on his back, and the soft but extremely elastic feeling that came through the 2 thin layers of clothing was too easy to make one's heart flutter. Therefore, the high-quality CK set up a perfect tent, completely betraying the ripples in his heart. What was more uncomfortable was that the pile driver's yield was stronger than an ordinary person's. When it ran, it was like an ancient spearman holding a gun forward, swinging it left and right endlessly. The ancient spearman's luck was E, and Guang felt that it was very inauspicious. Moreover, if he bumped into anyone, he would definitely be treated as a pervert. Xianxia was lying on Guang's back, but she did not want to consider his seemingly reasonable request. But I don't have any pants to wear. Guang sighed. Say that's true. Alright, are you wearing underwear? Xianxia nodded. Yes. Where did you get it from? Yours. Pfft. You can do it, you really can do it. My name is Original Flavor, 100 yuan per pair. Remember to transfer the money to my PayPal account when you get back. You're still in this business. I didn't do it originally, but I just started it. Alright, stop fooling around. We're almost there. Xianxia rolled her eyes and took out Guang's phone from his backpack. Looking at the time, it was about 8:30 in the morning. She glanced at Guang's WeChat and turned pale with fright. Oh no, little Meow Meow and the others have already started gathering and are preparing to leave. It's okay, they shouldn't have gone far. We can catch up. Actually, according to common sense, Guang should have asked Shui Lin and the others to wait for him to rush over and meet up with them. Unfortunately, just as this thought emerged in his mind, It was forbidden by the heavenly Holy Grail. This punishment realm was unreasonable. If it wanted him to save the hostages, it would not give him a shortcut. He could have stopped it in advance, but this unlucky Holy Grail did not give him the chance. At that time, the Holy Grail's notification said, "Redeemer, please correct your attitude and do not make pointless attempts." Remaining time, 23 hours 7 minutes and 31 seconds. Current number of people saved, 0. It was completely unreasonable. Wu Miaowan and the others were clearly fine, but this punishment realm seemed to have tacitly assumed that they were in a dangerous situation. There was one more thing that puzzled him. Wu Miaowan was no fool. She knew that Qin Guang and Xianxia were on their way. From her standpoint, it was impossible for her not to inform Xue Lin and her two masters of such important news. Given Qin Guang's status as the director of the General Directorate of Stabilization, and the leader of the task force, Xue Lin was especially respectful toward Qin Guang. As long as he knew that Qin Guang was coming, he would not insist on taking action on time. However, from the beginning to the end, whether it was Qin Guang or Xianxia, they had contacted Wu Miaowan many times, but nothing like this happened. Qin Guang wanted to take the initiative to call Xue Lin, his two masters and the others, but he could not get through to them at all. It was very puzzling and strange. He could contact Wu Miaowan, but he could not contact anyone else. Wu Miaowan should have taken the initiative to inform them that Qin Guang and Xianxia were coming, but her brain had somehow short-circuited. On one hand, she was happily chatting with Qin Guang and Xianxia on WeChat, and on the other hand, she was worried and uncertain. She tried all kinds of ways to dissuade her masters, but it was useless. She complained to Xianxia or Qin Guang, but she did not have the idea of using Qin Guang's identity to suppress Xue Lin. Something even stranger happened after the two of them entered Utopia Town. Initially, Qin Guang was worried that he would be arrested as an exhibitionist or a pervert if he entered the town in only his underwear. However, when the two of them stood in the middle of Utopia Town's central square, they realized that it was not the case at all. The huge square was empty. The autumn wind blew, rustling the sketch paper that was half fixed on the easel in the corner of the square. Not a single person was there. Is the entire town still in bed? It was almost 9 o'clock in the morning. Even third brother, who was famous for his laziness, should have gotten up and gone to work by now. Something was wrong, something was really wrong. Qin Guang walked around the square barefooted. Apart from the easel and the paintbrushes on the ground, he also found some things scattered on the ground. For example, a rope used for jumping rope, a badminton racket, and a chargeable stereo used for square dancing with Chinese characteristics. All these signs showed that there should have been people in this square before a certain period of time, and there were quite a few of them. Someone was drawing, and he should be attaching the sketch paper very seriously and methodically. Someone was jumping rope and two people were playing badminton. There was a cute Hello Kitty pendant hanging under the handle of one of the racket, indicating that the owner of the racket was a girl. As for the chargeable stereo, it told Qin Guang that there should have been a group of aunties dancing in the square. There were also a few breakfast shops near the square that were open. The steamers were still steaming and 2 or 3 buns were thrown on the ground, covered in dust. But now this place was completely empty. There was not even a shadow of a ghost. What's going on? Xianxia, who was beside Qin Guang, was pale and puzzled. Knitting his brows, Qin Guang replied, "Those people suddenly disappeared." Suddenly disappeared? Where did they go? How is that possible? There's no sign at all. Is this the end of the world? Xianxia was getting more and more afraid. Qin Guang shook his head. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Xianxia was puzzled. Why? Qin Guang silently walked into a clothing store whose shutter door was only half open. He bent down and went in. No one saw me running around naked in only my underwear. My face is saved. Xianxia vomited blood. Mr. Big Chrysanthemum Head, your focus is so strange. Xianxia didn't understand Qin Guang's feelings. After the initial shock, Mr. Big Chrysanthemum Head thought about it carefully. It wasn't a big deal for these people to disappear into thin air. Anyway, the entire universe had been changed. It was completely reasonable for the people in Utopia to be instantly transferred somewhere else. It was child's play. There was nothing to make a fuss about. Yes, that's right. The old man was so knowledgeable and the old man's psychological quality was so strong. Chapter 780. Since he was naked, it couldn't be considered as stealing, but it could be considered as borrowing. Since Qin Guang did not bring any cash with him, he found a pair of pants in an empty clothing store and wore them in shame. At least he didn't have to wear a pair of pants. As for stealing from someone else's store, I'm sorry. I'll pay you back later. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I can only apologize for now. Alright, ask Wu Miaoan where they're meeting up. We'll head there directly. After putting on the pants, Qin Guang felt more confident. He tightened his grip on the satchel around his waist. Now that he had reconnected with Lioli, he felt much more at ease. Xianxia nodded. She picked up her phone and immediately sent a WeChat message to Wu Miaoan. Suddenly remembering this, Qin Guang asked, "Oh right, aren't you going to change? Especially your underwear?" Unexpectedly, the little girl shook her head. No. Huh. The little girl clenched her fists tightly. Huh, what? Men's underwear feels so loose and comfortable. I've recovered a little and I feel like my movements have become lighter. Loose clothes can help me unleash my true strength. I don't want to be your burden anymore. That's right. She was angry. From the moment she boarded the plane until now, she was extremely dissatisfied with her performance. What the hell was this? She was clearly an inner force martial artist. She should be the one protecting Big Chrysanthemum. Qin Guang turned around and stared at her blankly. This was too scary. Did she awaken some kind of dark soul that she shouldn't have awakened? Was she possessed by some inexplicable power after wearing my underwear? Her combat strength skyrocketed? To be honest, if it's men's underwear, there must be new ones in this store that no one has worn before. You don't have to wear mine, do you? Qin Guang was still a little indignant. The little loli pulled him and ran towards the exit of the town that led to Mount Baylor. All right. Don't worry about these details. We have to hurry and meet up with little Meow Meow. It had been a long time since she came down from the yellow fruit tree. Perhaps it was because she had been adjusting her internal energy while walking, and she must have taken some pellets in between. The after effects of the strength pellet disappeared as quickly as it came. When she recovered, she dragged Qin Guang along as she ran. Her speed wasn't slow at all. Qin Guang silently thought, "You are the perverted mask. Why didn't I notice that you had such a hidden attribute? After you put on my underwear, it was like a shot of adrenaline. How terrifying. When I go back, I must buy a safe to protect my underwear. By the way, can you give me a few more when we get home? Don't you think there's something wrong? If you want to wear men's underwear, you can buy it yourself." Xianxia said impatiently, "Why are you so stingy? Am I not afraid of trouble? What's wrong with taking a few of your underwear? Is it because you don't want to spend money? Really, I can buy you a new one." "I won't admit it. I just want your original taste. It's really magical, so strange, so weird. Now I feel like I'm on steroids. My whole body is full of energy and I can't finish it. There must be some scientific principles that I have ignored. Forget it, I will slowly study it later. Anyway, it's better than the strength pill. It's probably similar to the doping in the Olympics. But how can I admit such a shameful thing to you directly? I'm not stupid and I'm not a pervert." Qin Guang ran with her while complaining in his heart. Xianxia's words make sense. I have nothing to say. This perverted little loli can't stop. No matter, I should buy a safe to calm myself. It's hard to guard against thieves day and night. Hey. Xianxia muttered. Look at your reluctant look. Your fire stick has even strolled through my small garden. Is there anything else to care about? What's wrong with me using your birdcage? Qin Guang sucked in a cold breath. She had really unlocked the darkness attribute. Are you a real man to say such words from your own mouth? Look at your stupid face. Right, why aren't you bleeding? Xianxia rolled her eyes. It's gone from practicing splits when I was young. What's wrong? You got a bargain and you're afraid that I didn't import it? I didn't even ask you to take responsibility. Don't worry, I will take responsibility. How? Marry me? I'll be the elder and your Wenwen will be the younger? Let me think about it. Don't think about it. How can I not know you? You look like you can see through me. I didn't see through everything. I know you're still hiding a lot of things from me. For example, you definitely didn't give that monster the name Earthquake. I'm not a 3-year-old kid anymore. How can I be fooled like that? Sigh, I don't know how to explain it to you. Anyway, this matter is completely beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Just think of the stone man as a particularly powerful lion, tiger, or bear. but I don't know if I'll meet it again. I'm not sure. Xianxia nodded and asked no more. As expected of an inner force martial artist, her nerves were so thick. She actually accepted the strange setting that Qin Guang threw out so calmly. What was even more unbelievable was that she completely accepted what happened in the air so quickly and even became infatuated with the old brand underwear. Even Qin Guang himself found it unbelievable. Following the location that Wu Miaoan sent through WeChat, the two ran all the way to the parking lot outside Wutuo town. As a transit station at the foot of the famous Mount Baylor, Wutuo town had a large parking lot. According to the original plan, Xuelin and the others would first gather at the parking lot, then take different buses and mix in different tour groups. They would disguise themselves as tourists and first enter the Mount Baylor scenic area. Because the Mount Baylor scenic area was too big, there was a large accommodation area inside the scenic area. Tourists who entered the scenic area had more freedom and would only gather at the accommodation area at night. There were many Wuxia tourists who came from China. As long as the task force was careful enough, they should not be easily discovered. They entered the mountain first and then met up in the primitive forest in the scenic area. Then they immediately charged deep into the mountain and caught Shatter off guard. According to Wu Miaoan, she should be sitting on a bus with the tail number 566 with her master Xuelin and the others. It would not be difficult to find them. However, the two of them looked at the empty parking lot, which was full of cars, and their faces were full of bewilderment. What the hell? It was fine that there was no one in the town, but why was there not a single living person in the parking lot? Xianxia's lips trembled. She had finally calmed down, but now she was on tenterhooks again. She thought to herself, could it be that this place is haunted? Unknowingly, Xianxia's finger hooked onto Qin Guang's sleeve. What are you doing? Unexpectedly, Qin Guang screamed. Xianxia shouted back even louder than him, nothing. I'm scared. Let me pull you. You're my most important deputy director. Be brave. You disappoint me. All right, I'll try my best. Xianxia took a deep breath and carefully searched the parking lot with Qin Guang. From time to time she would pick up her phone and send a message to Wu Miaoan. Little Miaoan, are you guys really in the parking lot? Yes. Where are you guys? Hurry up, the bus is about to leave. The driver is ready to start the engine. Are you really talking about the parking lot in the north of the town near the mountains? But we don't see anyone. There's only one parking lot in Wutuo town. That's strange. Where are you guys now? There's a sea of people here. How can there be no one? My dear, are you messing with me? Why would I mess with you? Look at the time, there's really no one here. We're next to the dispatch office. Can you see it? I can see the dispatch office from here, but you're not there. It's next to the big red iron gate. Can't you see it? That's impossible. Is there another dispatch office here? I really can't see it. Wait a minute, I'll think of a way to delay it. I'll come down and find you. After Wu Miaoan finished speaking, there was no more movement. Xianxia held her phone with a blank look on her face. She turned to look at Qin Guang blankly. It's really haunted. Qin Guang did not reply to her. Instead, he quietly placed his hand on her waist. Xianxia screamed again. What are you doing? Don't touch my waist all of a sudden. Qin Guang coughed lightly. Sorry, I'm actually a little scared. You're the director. You're the one who disappoints me, okay? As Xianxia spoke with a trembling voice, she hugged Qin Guang's waist and asked, Bureau Chief, is this a ghost? It's really haunted, isn't it? Qin Guang did not reply to her. Instead, he asked Liuli in his mind what was going on. When they did not see anyone in the plaza earlier, it could be explained that the people of Wutuo town were all held hostage. However, the two of them were in the parking lot with Wu Miaoan. According to what Wu Miaoan said, there should be a sea of people here and this should be the scene she saw now. However, the reality was that there was not a single person. Suddenly, Qin Guang found the bus with the tail number 566 not far away. He pulled Xianxia and ran over. The bus is over there. They ran to the side of the bus. The bus's door was not closed. The two of them got on, but there was still no one inside. Little Miaowei, we're on the bus, but there's no one. I don't see anyone. Not a single person. Xianxia sent another message to Wu Miaoan. After a few seconds, Wu Miaoan replied with a voice message. I'm next to the dispatch room, but I don't see you. Why is there no one on the bus? The license plate is 7H566. Did you get on this bus? It's this bus. There's no mistaking it. But there's really no one. Wu Miaoan seemed to have gotten off the bus. She sent a voice message. That's impossible. My master and your master are sitting in the 3rd row from the front. Team leader Shui is sitting in the 2nd row from the back. I'm sitting in the 5th row from the front. How can I not see anyone? What are you doing, sweetheart? You're not messing with me, are you? Xianxia ran to the seat that Wu Miaoan mentioned with a face full of astonishment. She stared at it for a long time, then reached out her hand in disbelief. Of course she could only grab air. She turned around and looked at Qin Guang blankly, then pointed to the 3rd row from the front. Little Miaowei said that I'm sitting here with her master. Qin Guang scratched his head. But isn't there no one here? Xianxia nodded. Yes, there's no one. Qin Guang and Xianxia looked at each other. Wu Miaoan, who was on the other end of the WeChat message, sounded very serious. Clearly, everything she saw and heard was the truth. What the two of them saw could not have been an illusion. In that case, there was only one explanation: seeing a ghost. Alright, it could also be another reason that was even more ridiculous than seeing a ghost. Right now, the two of them seemed to be in the same place as everyone else, but in reality, they were in a completely different space and time. What a sci-fi story. Billy, you have to give me an explanation this time, right? This is completely beyond the scope of the old man's abilities, alright? It's beyond his scope. Fortunately, there was an insider living in Qin Guang's Holy Grail. No matter how unreliable Liuli was, she had to give an explanation for something like this. Liuli sighed faintly. Yes, I've been waiting for you to ask me this question. I've been waiting for a very, very long time. Qin Guang was horrified. This tone sounded very wrong. It was just like what was often shown in movies, where a peerless expert hiding deep in the mountains was finally found by a young talent and entrusted to him before he died. Could it be that Liuli's next words were going to completely change my life? Say, that's not right. My life has already been changed a lot. Could it be that from now on I'm going to open the 2nd chapter of my life? Qin Guang immediately became extremely sincere. Come on, no matter what shocking secret you're going to tell me, I'll be mentally prepared. Actually, it's not that big of a deal. You and that little girl are still on Earth, while the others have been moved to a completely parallel space and time. That is the real world within a cup in your punishment realm this time. It's been like this since the beginning of your mission. I'm quite impressed that you're able to wait until now to understand. Such important information. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Liuli curled her lips very casually. Didn't I just communicate with you not long ago? So you're blaming me now? Then why did you pretend to be so deep just now? This can increase the sense of urgency and suspense, making you feel more immersed. I really have to thank your whole family. Qin Guang secretly beat his chest and stamped his feet. Alright, I understand everything. No wonder from the beginning of the punishment realm he had to save 55 hostages. It turned out that from then on they were all trapped in a parallel universe. Xianxia still didn't understand, but Qin Guang had already gotten the answer from Liuli. He and Xianxia were indeed on Earth. But everyone in Utopia Town, including Xuelin and the others from the task force, had been moved to a completely duplicated parallel universe. They were indeed in Utopia Town, but Utopia Town was not this Utopia Town. Instead, the punishment realm of the Holy Grail used the power of the Holy Grail on the basis of the real Utopia Town and made a complete copy. It did not only copy Utopia Town but also the entire Mount Baylor. Those who were moved were not only the people in Utopia Town, but also everyone in the headquarters of the Broken World that was hidden deep in Mount Baylor. Moreover, when everyone was moved, the Holy Grail had done everything in such a secretive manner that no one, including Wu Miaoan, noticed anything and had no idea what was going on. This is really a huge scam. After going around for so long, I still haven't entered the real world within a cup. Qin Guang didn't want to complain anymore. Anyway, the entire universe had been merged with the world within a cup. What was so surprising about creating a copy of his mission area in another universe? Chapter 781. Qin Guang asked Azure in his heart again. Alright, then stop talking nonsense. Tell me what I should do to enter the real world within a cup, which is another Wutuo town. I really don't have much time left. Azure coughed twice. What if I say I don't know? Will you hit me? Qin Guang silently looked at the image that Azure had conjured in his heart and smiled bitterly. Forget it, I can't beat you. It would be good to scold you, but I really can't bring myself to do so. I roughly understand the characteristics of the world within a cup this time. Just like how I thought of using water to restrain the tremor earth after falling, and then the Holy Grail immediately told me that I can use faith points to buy a pond. I'm afraid that I have to understand something in my heart first before this unlucky world of punishment will give me the corresponding hint, right? Azure snapped her fingers. Ice dog. Congratulations, you got it right. You're a smart kid. Thank you so much for your compliment. No need to thank me, you deserve it. In short, do your best. I really didn't mean to trick you, but this world of punishment is too big. Currently I'm also powerless. According to my guess, if you can successfully break into the real world within a cup, I will probably be able to provide you with some help. But for now you still have to rely on yourself. Qin Guang nodded silently. I understand. Do your best, do your best. You're the God Emperor, please be more reserved. I said that on behalf of Dear Cry just now. All right. Azure's figure gradually faded from his mind, and Qin Guang no longer counted on her. In short, heaven never bars one's way, and the trick must be around Wuxia town. People can't be suffocated to death by peeing, so there must be a way. Perhaps it was a place that he had overlooked. His contemplation was interrupted by Exin Qin's panicked scream. Qin Guang, what should we do now? No matter how tough Exin Qin was, she couldn't hold on this time. As she asked, she jumped up and turned around to grab Qin Guang's arm, shaking it with all her might. Xiao Miao Miao sent another message. She said she's back on the bus and will depart soon. But I can't see anyone. I can't see anyone. As she spoke, she pulled Qin Guang over to the 5th row that Wu Miaowan had mentioned. She pointed at the empty seat and said, "It's here. She's sitting right here. She was clearly still sending me messages. Look, she sent another photo. Isn't this the place? Wasn't this the cushion on her back? But why can't I see anyone? Have they all turned into ghosts?" After all, Exin Qin was just a young girl. Perhaps she had seen more of the world than an ordinary girl. As the eldest disciple of the Thousand Despair sect, she had received the most elite education since she was young. However, when she encountered such a strange incident, and the victim was her most respected master and close childhood friend, she gradually lost control of her emotions. Enough. Stop fooling around. Qin Guang suddenly reached out and grabbed Exin Qin's shoulder, shouting at her. He had to make her settle down as soon as possible. Qin Guang didn't have time to waste with her. From the moment he was pulled into the punishment realm, strictly speaking, he had rushed here without stopping. During this time he probably didn't waste a single second of his time. If he had to say that he wasted time, it was probably about 10 minutes of Exin Qin's dilly-dallying. At first he thought that as long as he could meet up with Xue Lin and the others, he would be able to bring them out safely. However, the moment he landed, he bumped into the tremor earth, which gave him a rude awakening. It wasn't easy to deal with the tremor earth, get through the first 3 stages and rush to the small town. In the end, he realized that he hadn't even entered the punishment realm yet. Regardless of whether it was the people he wanted to rescue or deal with, they were all in the real realm within a cup. This was ridiculous. Time was running out and he should be the one who was panicking the most. Therefore, Qin Guang understood that he had to make a decision. He could either make Exin Qin settle down completely and fight alongside him, or he could make her find a safe place to hide so that she wouldn't be a burden to him. He couldn't afford to waste any more time. Exin Qin was stunned when she was suddenly shouted at by Qin Guang. She stood rooted to the ground and pursed her lips tightly. She felt wronged, confused, and empty. Qin Guang was about to comfort her, but she suddenly clenched her fists as if she was cheering herself on. "All right, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. The situation is terrible, really terrible. I know that too. I can't explain it to you in a short time, but I hope you can calm down, okay? You have to understand that you're Exin Qin, the eldest disciple of the Thousand Despair sect. You have inner force, you're very strong. Even if your master and Wu Miaowan are in a bad situation, they're still alive, aren't they? We can even send messages to Wu Miaowan, can't we?" Exin Qin nodded and rubbed her eyes. "Oh, I understand. It's good that you understand. Have you heard of parallel realms? I've read about them in novels. Very well, I'll make this short. Our current relationship with Wu Miaowan is equivalent to that of parallel realms. They're in the parking lot of another Wu Tuo town, but their Wu Tuo town isn't our Wu Tuo town. Do you understand? We have to find a way to find the entrance to the parallel realm they're in. Is that why little Miaowan said that her television couldn't get any signal last night? Xianxia suddenly remembered this and raised her head to ask. Qin Guang nodded. Of course. They're no longer in this world. How could they still receive the television? Xianxia asked again. Then why can I use your phone to send her WeChat messages? Qin Guang was stunned at first, then his eyes lit up. Why was that? Wasn't this the problem he had neglected all this time? The television couldn't get any signal, but the phone could send WeChat messages. This meant that the realm in the cup constructed by the heavenly Holy Grail did not completely isolate him from the other world. Instead, it connected the two worlds through Wu Miaowan and his phone. This was the breakthrough point. The communication base station in Wu Tuo town. If his guess was right, it was very likely that when the heavenly Holy Grail constructed the realm in the cup in Wu Tuo town, it deliberately left this only flaw and embedded the communication base station in the middle of the two worlds. As long as he found the communication base station and thought of a way, he might be able to find the entrance. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, the unique electronic notification of the heavenly Holy Grail rang in his mind. Stage 4: Repel the attack of the Earth Ripper and protect the communication base station in Wu Tuo town. The attack will begin in 15 minutes. That's right. I guessed it right. Follow me. I have a way. Qin Guang pulled Xianxia down and was about to rush down the bus when he smacked his forehead. Am I stupid? Don't I have the car keys on this bus? He started the bus with the license plate number 7H566. I'm not stupid not to use a car. As for how to use the characteristics of the base station to open the passage between the two worlds after finding it, he was not sure for the time being, but in any case there were some signs. Let's get there first. Where are we going? Xianxia sat in the front passenger seat. Qin Guang drove the bus out of the parking lot. To the communication base station in this town. Where is the base station? Qin Guang. Then here's the problem. I don't know where it is either. Wu Tuo town was not small. Usually the communication base station was built in the relatively remote suburbs, especially on the mountains. Qin Guang was completely clueless about this place. He did not have a guide now, and there were only 15 minutes before the Earth Ripper attacked. It was impossible to find the base station in such a short time. Then, when the Earth Ripper launched its attack, the hidden base station would definitely be destroyed in a matter of minutes. Thinking of this, it was really hopeless. Qin Guang slammed the steering wheel hard and his face turned green. Faster, see. After a few seconds, he suddenly came back to his senses. Wait, I have an idea. A person's potential was really scary. Qin Guang would never know his own potential until the most desperate moment. He had never thought that his brain could work so fast. He did not know, but there must be someone who did. It was Wu Miaowan Xuelin and the others who were transferred to another world and could not contact the outside world, not him. His brain short-circuited just now. When he saw that they were in another world, he thought he was there too. He was now on the real Earth. He could call Baldy Uncle Jiang and ask for his opinion. Uncle Jiang. I'm in Wu Tuo town at the foot of Mount Baral. Please help me check the location of the communication base station in Wu Tuo town. Help me locate it. Don't ask me why I'm here. Time is tight, I don't have time to explain. Hey, got it. Thank you. After waiting for 4 to 5 minutes, Qin Guang received the coordinates sent by Jiang Yuanchao. He tapped on the map on his phone, turned on the navigation and drove out. Thank goodness for the smartphone, sometimes it was really useful. Lu Fei curled up in the hotel room with a pale face. She did not know what was going on. When she woke up, the people around her were all gone. The 30-odd people who came with her to Wu Tuo town for an inspection were all gone. She could not get through to them on the phone no matter how hard she tried. That was not the scariest thing. The scariest thing was that the whole town had become empty. Wu Tuo town, which was as prosperous as a big city last night, became a ghost town overnight. In such a big hotel there was no one in the lobby, the kitchen, the dining room, and even the cashier. The drawers of the cashier were still open, and the red banknotes were neatly arranged there. Lu Fei also went to the streets to take a look. She even barged into an empty house nearby that was not closed and took a look. Then she quickly returned to her hotel room. This was too scary, too strange. Wu Tuo town, which had a population of at least tens of thousands, really became a ghost town overnight. She was scared out of her wits. She thought of finding a car to leave this godforsaken place, but in the end she changed her mind. She chose to return to her hotel room, lock the door tightly and move a cabinet to block the door. She did not know what was wrong with her. She felt that this might be the end of the world. She often watched American dramas and had just watched Train to Busan not long ago. She even unconsciously imagined that after she drove out of the town, she would suddenly find that the entire town had turned into zombies, baring their fangs and claws, and pouncing on her with saliva dripping from their mouths. A mere car could not give her any sense of security at all. Fortunately, she was pleasantly surprised to find that she could actually get through to her home phone. After she received a notification from her father that he would immediately send a helicopter from a nearby city to pick her up, she felt a little more at ease. But hiding in the room alone, her heart still pounded. She really did not understand. She had just come out for a good inspection. How could she encounter such a strange thing? Where did they all go? At this moment, the roar of a car engine came from afar and then quickly approached. There was a car. There was someone. Lu Fei stood up straight and rushed to the window of the room. She turned her head to look at the source of the sound. At the intersection of the street corner, a bus suddenly rushed out from the side. It made a beautiful half-circle, then continued to sprint forward, getting closer and closer to her hotel. This bus was actually drifting. And it was drifting too frighteningly fast. The distance between the rear of the bus and the houses at the edge of the road was probably no more than 2 fingers. Who was driving this bus? Was there actually anyone else in this town? Chapter 782. In addition, apart from Qin Guang, who else can drive like this bus driver? Qin Guang's driving skills are too representative, the feeling of wandering on the edge of the extreme. Others simply can't copy and it's impossible to imitate. Even though they were drifting a cumbersome bus with poor maneuverability, it was a testament to the driver's superb driving skills. Lu Fei's breathing gradually became rapid. With her understanding of Qin Guang and the skill of racing, the driver must be Qin Guang. Don't think about the second person. The driving skills shown by this bus drift are so familiar, as if awakening the dust-laden memory in the bottom of her heart for a month or two. Memories flooded her mind like a tide, filling her heart in an instant. It hasn't been a long time since Lu Fei and Qin Guang met. But perhaps it was because she was too engrossed in her family's business. While Qin Guang was also extremely busy, the two of them didn't contact each other much. Although in her heart Qin Guang was still that domineering and handsome god of racing, and he had even become more outstanding and dazzling, to the point that even she, as the successor of the Lu conglomerate chemicals, felt that his radiance was too dazzling. But the feelings between people are like this: after a long time without contact will slowly fade. Lu Fei and Qin Guang haven't experienced too many unforgettable things together. She also helped Qin Guang a lot when he was down, but in her eyes, those are not worth mentioning small favors. Today Lu Fei still admires his driving skills, but from time to time, Lu Fei also thinks, I really care about him, but does he also care about me? In a sense, Lu Fei is actually a very complicated person with a strong two-sided personality. When she was addicted to racing, she seemed a little childish, even can be said to be a chinibu. To put it bluntly, she is a retard, otherwise she would not become one of Qin Guang's fanatical fans. But now, as she grows older, especially after choosing to return to the family business, people always have to grow up. She also has to say goodbye to her past self. In the company, she was a swift and decisive businesswoman who could be called a genius. At home, she no longer dressed up like a maverick and deliberately showed how arrogant she was in front of the elders. Instead, she could happily discuss company matters with the elders and always put forward useful suggestions of her own. But she would not forget Qin Guang so easily. Now she just wore a mask out of habit, but it did not mean that she had completely thrown away the crazy factor of a racing girl deep in her heart. She just hid it slowly. From time to time, Lu Fei would see the news about Qin Guang on TV, and she felt happy for him from the bottom of her heart. Unlike many people who thought that Qin Guang's success so far relied on luck, Lu Fei, who knew Qin Guang when he was down and out, especially understood that his success might really have a component of luck, but it was not the main reason at all. What really made him, in just a few months, from a penniless poor student to the current #1 domestic internet celebrity, the chairman of Tianguang Agency, the strongest original content creator in China, the guarantee of the ratings of all TV stations, the big hero who saved the plane crash, and the omnipotent and invincible omnipotent Superman, was his unparalleled talent and courage to go all out no matter what he did. Lu Fei could never forget the heroic appearance of Qin Guang driving the modified GTR on the Hong Kong mid-mountain racetrack. It was so arrogant and so fascinating. Even if it was only occasionally in the middle of the night, it could still make her excited and her heart beat faster. But this did not mean that she could still take the initiative to approach Qin Guang as before. She was busy with her work and Qin Guang was not idle either. Lu Fei could refuse the blind dates required by her family, and she could ignore those childs who tried to approach her through their fathers. In this regard, the Dechuan Lu family gave her the greatest freedom, but she could not shirk the responsibility on her shoulders. Only she, the most legitimate heir of the Lu's chemical industry group, which was worth tens of billions of yuan, must shoulder her own responsibility. She had been free and undisciplined for many years. No matter whether she had played enough or not, she had to stop. Like many other rich second generations with the same fate, after enjoying elite education and a few years of unimaginable undisciplined life for ordinary people, she finally had to rein in her mind and return to the position she should return to. Everyone had their own life and also their own life. Both Lu Fei and Qin Guang had to face their own different lives. The two had agreed to let Qin Guang be an intern in her company, and she could also enjoy the addiction of being a little sweetheart. This idea had also become empty talk because of Qin Guang's rapid growth and Lu Fei herself being too busy. She understood more clearly that Qin Guang no longer needed her. According to the current state of the two, it was almost inevitable that they would gradually forget each other. According to the original idea of Lu Fei, she did not have to think about marriage now, so she was willing to accompany Qin Guang to be crazy. Even if it was really crazy, it did not matter. Then when she had played enough, they would slowly fade the relationship and go to live their own lives. It was not a big deal. However, many things couldn't keep up with the changes. Qin Guang's rise was too swift, to the point that Lu Fei would occasionally feel that he might not need her anymore. Perhaps she wasn't important in his heart, and he didn't seem to lack women around him. She wasn't indispensable. Otherwise, he would not have taken the initiative to find her for so long, right? Maybe he did it on purpose? It was not bad to stand slowly and look at him from afar. There was no psychological burden, and they did not have to worry about each other's matters. They still had to be friends. Maybe one day in the future, the two would meet in a high-end social occasion and then greet each other politely. Perhaps their respective minds would still recall the madness and debauchery in the GTR when they were in Xianxia, but they would stop being polite to each other, appearing strange and familiar at the same time. There was no need to deliberately alienate each other. Everyone's time and energy were limited, and people's memories would be washed layer by layer like the sand on the beach, leaving new imprints and covering the past. But Lu Fei did not expect that she would encounter such an incredible thing in an incredible place like Wuxia town. What was even more incredible was that Qin Guang also happened to be here, and it seemed that she and he were the only two living people in the entire town. This was simply absurd. The bus was not far from the hotel, about 70 to 80 meters away. It was whistling as it rushed over, and it would pass the hotel in a few seconds. Lu Fei only hesitated for a second before she suddenly turned around and tore off the tablecloth on the coffee table beside her. She raised her hand and violently waved the tablecloth at the window like a flag. Then she watched the bus get closer and closer. When the bus slowly got closer, she clearly saw the familiar man sitting in the driver's seat from afar. Once again she was sure of her judgment and finally shouted, "Here, Qin Guang. I'm here." As a god of racing, it was a basic skill to be observant and alert when driving. Although Lu Fei waved the tablecloth at the window in a hurry, Qin Guang still saw it immediately. At first he thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. After deliberately slowing down a little, he narrowed his eyes and looked at the window on the 4th floor in front of him, then rubbed his eyes again. What the f***ck, who did I see? I need a doctor. I'm either hallucinating or having presbyopia, right? Sister Lu Fei. Why is she here? It can't be such a coincidence, right? She was dragged into this too? What is she doing here? That's impossible. There's no reason for that. He has nothing to do with the shattered world. Why the f***ck would she appear in Wutuo town at such a bad time? Also, hasn't the entire Wutuo town been emptied of people? Even if Sister Lu Fei is really in Wutuo town, she should be in the real punishment realm, right? I don't believe it. This must be a trap set by the heavenly Holy Grail. That's right, this must be a special checkpoint of the punishment realm. It's creating an illusion in my mind to seduce me and waste my time. I'm not going to fall for it. Of course, Xianxia also saw Lu Fei. Her eyesight was not bad. Hey, that beautiful lady looks familiar. Isn't that the beautiful lady with the surname Lu that we met at the club last time? When you wanted to deal with that paparazzi company, you met that big boss called Lu Chao once. Xianxia did not seem to remember Lu Fei's name, but she remembered Lu Fei's face. After all, there were not many girls who were as beautiful as Lu Fei and had a good relationship with Qin Guang. As Qin Guang's intimate deputy, Xianxia had deliberately paid attention to the people around him, and Lu Fei was one of them. Seeing that they were about to pass by the house, Qin Guang heard Xianxia's words and hurriedly slammed on the brakes. Huh. You saw it too? The bus screeched to a halt outside the hotel's entrance. Xianxia, who was almost flung out by the sudden braking, glared at him. Nonsense, I'm not blind. How can I not see such a big person? At this moment Qin Guang was speechless. Then here came the problem. If Xianxia could see it too, there could only be two possibilities. The first possibility was that Xianxia had also been hallucinated by the world of punishment. Alright then, how pitiful. My capable assistant was just as unreliable as I was. Her willpower was so weak that she couldn't even resist a mere hallucination. Possibility 2, this is really Sister Lu Fei. To be honest, this is even sadder than possibility 1. Please don't be real. Forget it. Anyway, the bus has stopped. I'll go down and see if it's real or not. Wait for me for 2 minutes. Qin Guang opened the door and prepared to get off. Unexpectedly, Lu Fei had already run down the stairs. Her face was flushed and she was indescribably excited. Qin Guang. It's really you? Qin Guang hugged Lu Fei, who was pouncing toward him, into his arms. He quietly pinched her perky butt. This familiar feeling, this tight elasticity, this beautiful outline. Well, it's really Sister Lu Fei. This unique feeling can't be an illusion, nor can it be faked by a cunning enemy. Qin Guang coughed twice. Yes, that's right. It's really me. Why are you here? Lu Fei said, it can't be explained in a few words. Let's go. Let's go. Master Guang was puzzled. Why does this sentence sound so familiar? It seems like my lines have been stolen? The excitement and joy in Lu Fei's heart was not hard to understand. What she encountered today was a supernatural phenomenon. When she woke up, she found herself inexplicably trapped in a ghost town. Anyone would be scared. In such a desperate situation, she met an old acquaintance. Well, they were so familiar that they were basically lovers. Who wouldn't be overjoyed? Moreover, Lu Fei, who knew Qin Guang's driving skills well, was at least 10,000% confident that she could escape from this place in his car. She urged Qin Guang to get back into the car as she thought to herself. Is this the will of fate? Or is it fate? It can't be that he sensed that I'm in trouble here and deliberately came to save me, right? Forget it, that's not important. What's important is that I'm not so afraid when I'm with him. But Qin Guang was the one who didn't feel too good. The moment he received Lu Fei, the electronic notification of the Holy Grail rang in his mind. Hostage rescue successful. Current number of hostages rescued, 1. Current number of survivors, 55. Number of people to be rescued, 54. If the hostage death rate exceeds 40%, the mission will fail. Remaining mission time, 22 hours 41 minutes 39 seconds. Oh my god, it's for real. Sister Lu Fei is really one of the hostages. My elementary school math teacher, I'm so sorry. I should have calculated it clearly. Xuelin's task force has a total of 54 people, so there must be an unlucky number 55. It's just that I never would have thought that this unlucky number 55 would actually be Sister Lu Fei. So either Sister Lu Fei has had 8 lifetimes of bad luck or I have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Previously I despised Xianxia as a burden, but now I've received a real burden and I can't just ignore it. It's quite depressing to think about it. But Qin Guang didn't feel melancholy for long. As he started the car and continued to head toward the mountain where the communication base was, he thought to himself, if I stick my head out, I'll be stabbed. If I stick my head out, I'll still be stabbed. As a man, what's wrong with protecting one more person? I can still bear this bit of responsibility. When Lu Fei got into the car, she realized that there was a little girl in the car. She was shocked at first, but she quickly reacted and greeted Xianxia. She also remembered this little girl. She also knew from Lu Chao's personal bodyguard, Uncle Tai, that although this little girl looked delicate, she seemed to be an expert from a sect in the pugilistic world. Her strength and status were above Uncle Tai's. After waiting for less than 2 minutes, Lu Fei realized that the direction Qin Guang was driving in was a bit wrong. It wasn't the direction away from Wutua town. Qin Guang, are you driving the wrong way? Chapter 783. Qin Guang shook his head. No, I haven't. Lu Fei said again, but you shouldn't have taken this road to leave Utopia. You're heading to a dead end now. Xianxia suddenly snorted and said fiercely to Lu Fei, if you're going to take a car, then sit down obediently. Don't talk so much nonsense. Lu Fei was stunned and couldn't react. Qin Guang patted the control panel indicating for Xianxia to stop. Xianxia turned her head, fuming, and cursed in her heart. This stinky director, his brain works when he sees a beauty. Look at the situation now. Even if you have 100 mouths, you won't be able to explain it to others. My own mind is a mess now, so how can you explain it to an ordinary person? Besides, didn't I just cook rice for you? You don't even know how to be gentle when talking to me, but you're gentle when talking to Sister Lu Fei? Stinky director. Eating from the bowl and looking at the pot, thinking about the butcher's chopping board. Who knows, you might even be thinking about the piglets in the pig farm. Sooner or later you'll eat sage *T. Qin Guang felt the rising resentment from Xianxia and felt quite awkward. He coughed twice. Sister Lu Fei, when things settle down I'll explain it to you slowly. But right now we can't leave Utopia. We're going to Utopia's communication base. I have to do something there. He really wasn't joking. Just now he had thought of finding another car for Lu Fei and letting her drive out of Utopia by herself. But just as this thought emerged in his heart, Lu Li ruthlessly suppressed it. The reason was very simple. Now that Lu Fei had met up with him, she was indeed one of the hostages that had been successfully rescued. However, before the whole thing was over, the influence of the punishment realm on Utopia would not disappear. If she, the hostage, left the mission area first, she would definitely die a violent death. Lu Fei asked, communication base? Why are you looking for the base for? Qin Guang shook his head. Sister Lu Fei, I can't explain it to you clearly, but if we don't go we'll all die. It's hard for me to explain the reason to you. It's just like how all the people in Utopia disappeared into thin air. It's very unbelievable. In short, don't use the traditional view of life to look at this matter. But don't worry, no matter what, even if I die here, I will definitely bring all of you out safely. Don't jinx it. Lu Fei and Xianxia said in unison. The two of them were suddenly on the same side again. However, Qin Guang did not joke around with them like he did in the past. Instead, he looked at the distant sky with a solemn expression. That was the mountain with the signal tower and communication base. He could vaguely sense that there was an extremely dense power of the Holy Grail circling around the mountaintop. It was continuously condensing, and it was even more intense than when the great earthquake tremor descended out of nowhere. As long as it was in the world in the cup, death was not something that was unimaginable. He was almost used to it. Lu and Guang. Bu. Ti say. Lu and Fei and Ti Gu Lu and Lu and Lut. Lu Fei. After listening to Xianxia's explanation, Lu Fei was shocked. That is to say, we are now involved in a supernatural disaster that can destroy human beings? Xianxia rolled her eyes. In a sense, yes. I can't explain it clearly, but my master friends and colleagues are in another Wuduo town at this time. We have to rescue them. As for the rest, we have to ask him. This damn ungrateful director has been hiding things from us, refusing to tell us the truth. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. How is this not telling the truth? The situation is too complicated. I can't explain it clearly at all. If you want me to explain it to you, you have to call Hawking. First, you have to learn a brief history of time. Then you can go to a theological college. Finally, you can come to me to get a doctorate in theology. That should be enough. Once again, it was the metaphysical deception technique. The divine art of deception was just that useful. Both of them were stunned. Not good. I called my dad and asked him to send a helicopter. Nothing will happen, right? Seeing that they were about to reach the foot of the mountain where the base station was, Lu Fei suddenly screamed. Just as she was thinking about this, her cell phone rang again. He picked it up. After chatting for a while, she hung up the phone with a blank look on her face. Then she stared blankly at Qin Guang and Xen Qin. What did your dad say? Qin Guang asked. Lu Fei scratched her head. He asked me when I would take people to the manganese titanium mine here for an inspection. This is my job in Utopia, but he doesn't remember me asking for help at all. Qin Guang shrugged. Everything is as I expected. He looked like he had everything under control, but his heart was aching. He quickly asked Lu Li for advice. Madam Lu Li, why is that? Lu Li snorted coldly. You still want to ask for help? How can you treat the punishment realm like this? Tell her not to tell anyone about what happened here. Otherwise, her father's brain will be messed up by the power of fate a few more times. Do you believe that a living person will turn into an idiot? Then why didn't you stop me when I called Uncle Jiang just now? He just asked something. It's not a big deal. You didn't call anyone over. That's true. Lu Fei's mind was still in a daze until she got out of the car. Her father was not an old fool. It had only been 10 minutes since she asked for help. How could he have forgotten about it? Qin Guang felt that it was too troublesome to explain. There were only 5 or 6 minutes left before the Earth Ripper attacked. The group was still at the foot of the mountain. Even if they ran at their fastest speed to the top of the mountain, it would still take more than 10 minutes. He was anxious. Xen Qin had almost recovered, but Lu Fei was an ordinary person after all. Although she didn't lack exercise, she still seemed slow in such a race against time. As Qin Guang carried Lu Fei on his back, he ran up the mountain and said, I've already said that this is a supernatural phenomenon. We can't contact the outside world right now, and it's useless even if we do. It's not a bad thing that your father can't remember what happened here, so don't try to call him again. Otherwise you will kill him. Lu Fei shrunk her neck. Really? Of course. Do I look like I'm joking? Qin Guang could sense the restless power of the Holy Grail in front of him more and more clearly. He even had a feeling that if he could rush to the place where the power of the Holy Grail was the most concentrated, he might even be able to witness the birth of the Earth Ripper. To be honest, he was a little curious, so he sped up a little. The three of them were just about to go up the mountain. The communication base was at the top of the mountain, but the core area of the restless power of the Holy Grail was halfway up the mountain. If they could make it in time, it would be best to appear at the place where the Earth Ripper was born before it was born. Now that they had no faith in stock, they could no longer exchange the Holy Grail for the pond to deal with the Earth Ripper. Moreover, their mission this time was to protect the base station. It might not follow them, so it was unrealistic to lure it to the pond. They would probably have to fight it head-on. If they could witness the birth process of the Earth Ripper with their own eyes, they might be able to gather more information and have more tricks to deal with this elemental creature. Although Lu Fei was a little embarrassed to be carried by Qin Guang, she saw that Qin Guang and Xen Qin were going up the mountain faster than she imagined. If she insisted on running down, she might cause everyone to slow down. Therefore, she did not say much and obediently lay on Qin Guang's back. As they ran, Xen Qin's expression suddenly changed. She stretched out her hand to stop Qin Guang, who was next to her. Careful. There's something up ahead. Qin Guang looked at the strange spiraling wind less than 50 meters ahead. Actually, I've already seen it. It's so big I'm not blind. The spiraling wind was extremely strange. It was not large, only about 3 meters tall. However, it neither spread nor disappeared. Instead, it constantly roared and spun crazily in place. Accompanied by the constant rotation of the wind, the nearby sand and dust were slowly sucked into it. Inside, a pale yellow figure loomed. Just as Qin Guang expected, this was the birth process of the Earth Ripper. Lu Fei was not mentally prepared for it. She subconsciously tightened her grip on Qin Guang's neck. What the hell is this? Qin Guang silently put Lu Fei down. The Earth Ripper. Xen Qin turned her head and glanced at him. This unreliable director knew the name of this damn thing. If you knew, you should have said it earlier, Sir Director. Qin Guang shook his head. It's useless even if I said it. You can't deal with it. How do you know? My previous performance was just an accident, okay? Don't look down on me. Xen Qin felt embarrassed and snorted. Without thinking, she picked up 2 hard stones from the ground and shook her wrists fiercely. The 2 stones flew towards the center of the whirlwind at the same time with a whistling sound. However, it was of no use. After the stone was thrown in, It did not penetrate the whirlwind, nor did it destroy it in the slightest. Instead, it was directly sucked in by the stones and sand that were already in the whirlwind and quickly fused with it. Not only did Xianxia's hidden weapon attack not destroy the birth of the Earth Ripper, but it also accelerated the process. At this moment, Qin Guang asked in his heart. Really, at this point you should tell me what I should do, right? Apart from dealing with this monster, I have to do something else to use that unlucky base station to enter the real punishment realm, right? Qin Guang, wait a moment. Your Madame Liuli is discussing something with someone. Unexpectedly, the one who replied to him was not Liuli but Lu Minghua. Master Guang was dumbfounded. Firstly, what do you mean my Liuli? It should be Liuli, the old man's victim. Secondly, she's discussing something with someone? She's still discussing something with someone else at this time? Wait, since when can Liuli talk to someone else other than me? Who is she talking to? This doesn't make sense. Isn't the Redeemer the only one? There's someone else other than me? Who is this other person? There's someone else who can communicate with Liuli? This doesn't make sense. Don't scare me, okay? Faster, see. Could it be that I'm dead this time? So Liuli is already looking for a spare tire? Damn it, she's simply crazy, okay? She's ready to burn the bridge after crossing the river. I'm not even dead yet and she's already ready to change the spare tire? My heart hurts so much that I can't breathe. What nonsense are you thinking about? Idiot. Liuli's voice rang in his mind. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was so angry that he almost laughed at his neurotic thinking. Speak. Who is it? The third party? Oh no, the fourth one. That person and I are absolutely irreconcilable. Liuli spat. What the hell is that fourth one? How can the Redeemer be changed just because you say so? If you really die, everything will be over, okay? I don't know what kind of fortune you've accumulated over 8 lifetimes for you to pick up a soul with a mechanical heart. Get those 2 little girls to bring the Holy Grail up the mountain first and tell them to place the Holy Grail on the base station equipment. That's it? It can open the passage between the 2 worlds? Qin Guang was overjoyed. Liuli coughed lightly. It's not possible at first, but we can give it a try. However, it will take time. So your mission is to stay here. Either kill the Earth Ripper, be killed by the Earth Ripper, or persevere until the passage is opened. Wait a minute, what the hell is a mechanical heart? Qin Guang expressed that he didn't understand at all. Liuli rolled her eyes at him again. I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Just do as I say. You don't have much time to dawdle. She was shocked by Qin Guang's heaven-defying luck. The mechanical heart was a special soul that could not be born out of countless gods. Yet Qin Guang was able to collect one while lying down on earth. That was not all. In the beginning, Liuli treated Nicosia's soul as a precious collection, but she didn't expect that the mechanical heart formed from the soul of a mere mortal would have such a miraculous effect in the punishment realm. Could save lives. What kind of terrifying dog luck was this? Originally, according to her estimates, Qin Guang would at least need to kill the Earth Ripper first, then kill the Earth Ripper and then the Earth Ruler, the Earth XX and so on. It wasn't until he had collected the entire Earth set that he could gather the power of the Earth set to fully activate the communication base station and successfully connect the 2 worlds. However, the Earth set was not child's play. The further he went, the stronger the opponents he would face would be. One wrong step and he would be sent to heaven. In fact, this was also the most insane part of the punishment realm with 10 times the difficulty. Even if every time Qin Guang dealt with an Earth XX, he would be strengthened like he had absorbed the Tremor's regeneration ability. However, in front of the last Earth set, the Earth Primal Chaos, it was useless. The more abilities he had, the easier it would be for the strongest Earth Primal Chaos to swallow him in one bite, because the characteristic of a Primal Chaos was to devour all Earth attributes. The more abilities he had, the sweeter the taste would be in the eyes of the Earth Primal Chaos. There was no need to explain the complete supplement. However, if Qin Guang did not absorb the ability of the Earth set appetizer, it would be impossible for him to survive until he met the Earth Primal Chaos. This was simply an unsolvable dead end. The so-called punishment realm with 10 times the difficulty was not meant for him to pass, but to die with no chance of survival. This was the price to pay for using the power of destiny recklessly, and the punishment was even more insane. The punishment realm sent by the Bell of Destiny this time had no intention of letting him live. But just now that Nicosia Tupult actually told her that she had a way to deal with this matter. She could use her mechanical heart to temporarily fuse with the communication base station, and then decipher and analyze the characteristics of the two worlds, further strengthening the signal, and then use an even stronger signal to completely stimulate the connection between the two worlds and open up a channel. After hearing this, Liuli was deeply convinced. Nicosia's idea was very reliable. Although the success rate was not 100%, the chances were not small and it was worth a try. As long as she could fuse the mechanical heart with the communication base equipment, and really use her brain to figure out the characteristics of the two worlds, the possibility of this matter was extremely high. Even if it failed, it did not matter. Anyway, she could just leave Qinguang here to eat the earth set. If it was a blessing, it would not be a curse, and if it was a curse, he could not avoid it. If it was done, everyone would be happy and they could successfully bypass the earth primal chaos, which was impossible to deal with, and find a chance of survival in this certain death situation. If the matter was not done, then the earth set would ascend on the spot. Anyway, there was such a calamity in life. Liuli did not tell this most desperate situation to Qinguang, because it would be useless even if she did. Chapter 784. Xianxia frowned and said, "What should we do now? Do we just go around this thing?" The hidden weapon that she was most proud of was useless. Xianxia subconsciously grabbed Qinguang's arm and looked solemnly at the whirlwind that was spinning more and more violently. Lu Fei was even more shocked. Her whole body froze on the spot. She was so frightened that she couldn't move. If it wasn't for Qinguang supporting her, she would have directly slid to the ground. At the very least, Xianxia had seen the earthshaker with her own eyes and had developed a certain level of resistance to this supernatural phenomenon. This was Lu Fei's first time seeing it. As a normal person, this was far beyond her outlook on life and the world. Qinguang. What is this situation? What is the Earth Ripper? Lu Fei finally couldn't control herself. She screamed and held onto Qinguang's arm from the other side. This pincer attack from the left and right came so suddenly that it caught everyone off guard. Xianxia was still fine. After all, she was only holding onto Qinguang's hand. His fingertips were also rubbing against the little lowly's waist. However, it wasn't the same for Lu Fei. She was so nervous that she even pinned Qinguang's arm between her breasts. It had to be said, Lu Fei was indeed worthy of being the hot-tempered goddess of the 5 capitals. This fullness, this elasticity, this amount of breasts. Damn. What kind of situation is this, and I can still be distracted? If I was a soldier in my previous life, I would have definitely fallen asleep on the battlefield. I'm almost convinced of myself. Qinguang, who was being attacked from both sides by the 2 women, knew that it was not good. How could he be distracted at this critical moment? He activated his righteous heart and broke free from the 2 women's restraint. He patted his head to wake himself up as soon as possible. Calm down. Both of you calm down. It's not troublesome. Both of you take my bag and go up the mountain. Do you see that signal tower? The communication base station is just below the signal tower. When you guys get up there, take out the water cup from my bag. That's right, it's the cup that I use to drink water every day. Put it on the equipment in the communication base station. He turned around, took off the satchel from his waist and put it in Xianxia's hand. Xianxia was at a loss. And then Qinguang didn't answer Xianxia. Instead, he turned around and grabbed Lu Fei's shoulder. He stared at her and said, "Look into my eyes, Sister Lu Fei." Lu Fei slowly stopped trembling. She followed Qinguang's instructions and looked him straight in the eyes. Qinguang stared at her and said word by word, "Very well, that's it. Sister Lu Fei, you have to understand that you have been involved. Although I swear to protect your safety, you have to pull yourself together. Sister Lu Fei, you are not an ordinary woman, you are Lu Fei. You are Lu Fei from Dechuan province. You are my respected and knowledgeable sister Lu Fei. You are the heir of Lu Chemical, a strong woman in the business world. You have a big heart." Lu Fei listened to Qinguang's words, and the confusion in her eyes gradually disappeared. "Yes, that's right, I am Lu Fei. I have a big heart. That's right. Get rid of all your distracting thoughts. Treat all the unreasonable things you see in front of you as a trivial matter like eating and drinking, the sun rising and setting. You who have a big heart must be calm in the face of everything. Do you understand?" Lu Fei nodded heavily. "Understood. It's good that you understand. Now. Immediately. You two do as I say. Don't hesitate or doubt. Go up the mountain. As for this strange thing, I'll take care of it. After Qin Guang finished, he pushed the two of them hard. Qin Guang's brainwashing was obviously very successful. Lu Fei did not hesitate to turn around and go straight up the mountain. She understood that now was not the time to be afraid. There was no point in being afraid. Xianxia hesitated a little and followed Lu Fei. She turned back and asked worriedly, "Chief, what about you?" Qin Guang waved his hand. "Didn't I tell you? Just do as I say. After putting the cup on the mountain, wait for me on the mountain. I'll deal with the Earth Ripper. Please don't overestimate yourself and drag me down." Xianxia's expression stiffened. She did not agree with what Qin Guang said. "I am the great senior sister of the Thousand Despair sect. I can fight better than you. Why would I drag you down?" However, the stone she threw just now clearly did not pose any threat to the strange existence that was constantly brewing in the whirlwind. Previously at the Huangguoshu, it was indeed Qin Guang who lured the Earth Ripper away and destroyed it. Although she did not know what method he used, he might be right. She could not deal with these monsters, but he had a way. The two of them took a detour and went straight up the mountain through the forest path. Qin Guang took slow but firm steps towards the spiral gust. As time passed, the whirlwind's rotation speed became faster and faster. However, its volume began to slowly decrease. The originally vague human silhouette in the center also became clearer. Qin Guang moved sideways and blocked the spiral gust's straight line to the mountain top. His breathing gradually became faster and his eyes became more focused. In his heart, the heavenly Holy Grail's notification sounded. Due to external assistance, the Earth Ripper's attack time has been advanced by 30 seconds. Countdown begins. Qin Guang silently counted the time in his heart. Almost 15 minutes had passed. Should I start the countdown from 10? No problem, I've already mentally prepared myself. What kind of posture should I use to welcome this unlucky Earth Ripper? 3, 2, 1. Damn, it seems like your countdown is 3, 2, 1. And why is your countdown so much faster than normal? Before Qin Guang could finish his thought, the spiral gust had already exploded without warning. The power of the heavenly Holy Grail that had been scattered in the surroundings and had not yet been absorbed by the whirlwind was not shaken away by the explosion of the whirlwind. Instead, it abruptly gathered towards the original location of the whirlwind. The billowing smoke and dust dispersed, revealing a 2-meter-tall humanoid monster that slowly emerged. Unlike the Earth Ripper, which was composed entirely of orange rocks, this Earth Ripper's body was dark cyan. Although it was 2 meters tall, it was not thick. On the contrary, its limbs were extremely slender. It had a triangular head which was bald and had no eyes, nostrils, or mouth. Its 2 forelimbs were different from a normal person's arms. They looked somewhat like the blade-like arms of a praying mantis, full of barbs. Under the illumination of the sun, they glinted with a faint cold light, undoubtedly revealing the sharpness of these blade-like arms. Qin Guang silently gave this Earth Ripper a 9 out of 10. As expected, it lived up to its name. One look and you can tell that it's really good at cutting. The Earth Ripper's triangular head first turned slightly towards Qin Guang, as if sizing up its prey. Then it raised its neck and pointed its triangular awl at the mountain peak, probably to determine its attack route. After that, it slowly moved and very casually waved its blade-like arms. An extremely frightening whooshing sound could be heard from where its blade-like arms rubbed against the air, sharp and ear-piercing. Lord Light silently expressed that if anyone were to tell me that the dark cyan rocks that make up this Earth Ripper are just ordinary stuff, I'll definitely hang them on a tree and hack them to death. Forget it, I'm the dignified lord of the 3,000 worlds. I'm not a good-for-nothing. Come on. Let's fight to our heart's content. Lady Azure. Can I buy some life-saving items from the Holy Grail on credit? I'll slowly pay back my faith later. This thing is so scary. Azure ignored him. It was either because the shop didn't accept credit, or because the Holy Grail had been taken away and she couldn't help him. In short, whether he was stubborn or not, he had to bite the bullet. Chapter 785. How am I supposed to win against it? Qin Guang began to cautiously circle around the Earth Ripper, taking small steps. His eyes were especially cautious and his gaze was focused. I don't believe that with the old man's abilities he can't deal with a mere rock golem. Don't be fooled by how scary it looks It definitely has a weakness. It's a pity that I didn't find a pond on the way up. Otherwise, if I just lured this guy to a pond, it would definitely be over in a matter of minutes. That's not right. The Earth Ripper seems to be different from the Earth Shaker. The color of its body looks more like granite than ordinary rock. It's also not like the Earth Shaker where soil and stones constantly fall off its body and are then reattached to it. It seems like this thing won't have any problems even if it's soaked in a mud pond. That would be a headache for them. Just as Qin Guang was racking his brains to no avail, the Earth Ripper seemed to have adapted to its new body. It suddenly bowed and a buzzing sound came from its granite-like body. In the next instant, it had already crossed a distance of tens of meters and appeared in front of Qin Guang as if it had teleported. The arm of the blade, which was almost the same length as the Earth Ripper's body, drew an arc in the air and slashed towards Qin Guang. The friction between the blade and the air produced a deafening buzzing sound. If he was cut by this blade, what awaited Qin Guang was only one outcome: being cut into two at the waist. So fast. According to Qin Guang's judgment, the absolute speed of the Earth Ripper when it sprinted was definitely more than 30 meters per second. It was 3 times faster than the human world record and not much inferior to a cheetah. However, this damn thing's body was not made of carbohydrates but solid rock. Fortunately, the old man was not someone to be trifled with. You want to kill me with a mere blade? Dream on. Old man Guang decisively dodged and fell backward. The blade whistled past the tip of his nose, but only a few strands were cut off. Alright, he had no hair. In short, it was so damn fast. After dodging the ambush, Qin Guang exerted strength in his legs and bounced off the ground, shooting several meters away and escaping from Ripper's attack range. At the same time, cold sweat dripped down from his temples. This Ripper was even stronger than the Tremblers. Here it comes again. He was still lying on the ground, and before he could regain his footing, the Ripper had already appeared in front of him. Its 2 blade-like arms slashed down vertically from above. Scram. Old Master Guang flipped his body on the ground. A deafening sound rang out and countless tiny gravel and sand splashed onto Qin Guang's body and face, causing him to bruise. Damn it, damn it, damn it. This guy was too ferocious. The old man was no match for him. Forget it, I won't sweat anymore. It's almost dry. At this moment he was stuck between the 2 blade-like arms. Looking left and right, the 2 sharp blades were less than a centimeter away from him, deeply embedded in the ground. His 2 legs kicked the ground and he darted forward 2 to 3 meters like a snake. Taking advantage of the fact that the Earth Ripper had yet to pull its blade-like arms out of the ground, he could finally stand up straight. With 2 crisp clangs, the Earth Ripper finally pulled out its 2 blade-like arms and held them horizontally in front of its body. Taking advantage of this gap, Qin Guang panted heavily, desperately trying to think of a way out. He was in a difficult situation. It hadn't even been 10 seconds since the fight started, and he was already in such a miserable state. His face was covered in dirt and his life was in danger at any moment. This crazy Earth Ripper had no flaws at all. It was not afraid of water, its movements were swift and fierce, and its blade-like arms were so sharp that they could cut through iron like mud. It was so strong that it made people's hair stand on end. In the game he was basically a smurf account that he had just created, and this Earth Ripper was an elite monster in the high-level area. He had to be at least level 10 or so to find a few people to team up with. There was no solution at all. The disparity in strength between the 2 sides was too great. His side had millet and rifle while the enemy had level 59. In fact, at this time Qin Guang's best choice was to ignore everything, turn around, and escape to a place where he could create a geographical advantage, just like he had escaped countless times before. But now was different from the past. He couldn't escape every time. This time he couldn't escape, so he could only fight. Qin Guang was well aware of this, but judging from the current situation he knew that he had no chance of winning. What should I do? While he was thinking hard, the Earth Ripper fiercely moved again. Its speed didn't slow down at all, like a sophisticated robot. First, it bent its arms slightly, then placed the 2 blade-like arms in front of it, forming an X shape. After a short period of silence, the Earth Ripper's 2 legs made a buzzing sound like an electric motor. It should be accumulating power. Qin Guang retreated a little bit while remaining vigilant. The Earth Ripper was about to make a big move. In fact, if there was a way, Qin Guang also wanted to take the initiative to attack. But until now he hadn't been able to find any shortcomings of the Earth Ripper. It was like a cow trying to bite a pumpkin. The next moment the Earth Ripper moved fiercely faster than before and shot towards Qin Guang like a cannonball. At the same time, its two blade-like arms opened at the same time and slashed an X shape, slashing straight at Qin Guang. Qin Guang's hair stood on end. He knew that there was no way to retreat this time and there was no way to avoid it. Damn it, I'm going all out. If a tiger doesn't show its might, you'll really think I'm a sick cat. Although his absolute speed was completely suppressed by the Earth Ripper, if it was just his arms and eyesight he could still keep up with the Earth Ripper's rhythm. Instead of retreating he pressed down on his neck and took a step forward. His whole body was in the middle of the Earth Ripper's two blades. Both of his fists burst upwards at the same time, giving him a burst of chi. Unexpectedly, both of his fists landed on the Earth Ripper's blades. Break for me. Qin Guang had always been very confident in his Qilin arms. Although the Earth Ripper is known as an elemental creature, its body is only made of stone. I can still break it. Brother, I was wrong. Let's talk it over. 2 seconds later he exploded on the spot. His Qilin arms, which had always been invincible in the past, had actually suffered a loss against the Earth Ripper. His bones were almost shattered, but this broken thing's blades were actually unscathed. Although Qin Guang wasn't hit, the Earth Ripper took advantage of the situation and kneed him in the chest, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backwards. I say you're really too much. You can hit anywhere on its body but you just had to hit its blades. Do you think other people rely on these blades to make a living? This is the specialty of other people, okay? Aren't you looking down on people too much? Lily's voice finally came from the bottom of his heart, like the sound of nature. Savior. You finally appeared. Quickly give me a wonderful plan. Didn't I give you the forward mantra before? Screw your forward mantra. Give me a reliable one. No, I can't help you. Please continue to pray for your own good. I have a little idea, but the transcending Holy Grail doesn't allow me to tell you. I can't do anything about it. This is the rule and it can't be violated. Qin Guang's eyes lit up. Lily didn't seem to say anything, but in fact she had already revealed a very important message. This message was that the Earth Ripper was not invulnerable. While thinking about it carefully, it didn't seem to be of much use. He gritted his teeth and stood up again with the support of the tree behind him. The Earth Ripper, which seemed to never tire, pounced on him again. Thanks to the super regenerative ability of the lemon-flavored fruit candy, the injury from the knee strike had miraculously healed after a short period of recovery. To an ordinary person, this was a serious injury that would make them write their wills. Old Lord Guang twisted his neck and barely dodged the Ripper's slash. A smooth and clean cross-section of the huge tree behind him was sliced open, and the entire tree slid down to the ground. But this wasn't the end. The Ripper had clearly grasped a rather exquisite saber technique. After slicing the tree, its other saber arms swiped diagonally upwards. Helpless, Qin Guang could only stretch out his hands to grab the blade. Then his entire body was lifted up by the Rippers and his arms and he was flung away. With a swish, the blade slashed across and 2 bone-deep wounds appeared on his palms. His palms were nearly sliced off. Qin Guang couldn't even be bothered to cry out in pain. He would recover very quickly anyway. On the other side, after the Ripper sent him flying, it didn't choose to chase after him. Instead it turned to look at the mountain top. Not good. He wants to shake me off and go straight up the mountain. Although Xianxia wasn't weak, she was proficient in subtle moves like hidden weapons or movement techniques. She was no match for the Earth Ripper and was naturally countered. Needless to say, Lu Fei couldn't even be considered a human target. Given the Earth Ripper's strength, it only needed 3 slashes to destroy the communication base. He absolutely couldn't let it go up the mountain. Without thinking too much, Qin Guang turned the tables and pounced forward. The regenerative ability in his body seemed to become more effective the more he used it. This time his recovery speed was even faster. While he was still charging, his palms that were about to be sliced off had already recovered to their original state. The Earth Ripper's triangular head finally turned back. It seemed to be a little impatient and its arm buzzed once more. The saber arm stabbed out at an even faster speed than before. It was too fast, so fast that there was no time for anyone to react. This time Qin Guang's chest was directly pierced and he was raised in the air. The other saber arm swung horizontally, slashing at Qin Guang's neck. Qin Guang raised his hands in front of him to protect himself. He didn't know if he could regenerate after being beheaded. He didn't dare to gamble on this. He had to protect his neck. Once again he was sent flying. This time it was even worse. Both of his arms were completely broken, and there was only a tiny bit of his arm bone left. Then there was a bloody hole the size of a bowl on his chest, and dark red blood flowed down with a splash. The Earth Ripper seemed to be a creature with feelings. It rubbed its two saber arms on the trunk of the tree beside it in disgust, then turned around intending to go straight up the mountain. "Stop right there." Qin Guang appeared in front of it again, blocking its way. At this time his clothes had long been torn to pieces, but there wasn't the slightest wound on his body. Qin Guang was also shocked. Just now, stuffing the Earth Ripper into the pool of faith points was simply a stroke of genius. Otherwise he wouldn't have been able to deal with the Earth Ripper. This regenerative ability was simply invincible. In a sense, the Earth Ripper was not inferior to the Earth Ripper. Woo! The Earth Ripper was infuriated. "Yo, so you can talk. I met your kind earlier and now I've eaten him. Do you understand me?" Qin Guang grinned. In fact, he didn't care whether the Earth Ripper could understand him or not. If he could stall for time by chattering and gain an opportunity for Azure to crack the base station, he was even willing to write a web novel for this old man, guaranteeing that he would be able to read it until the end of time. Unfortunately, the Earth Ripper seemed to be a cold-hearted player. It ignored him and silently pounced on him again. The difference in strength between the two sides was an objective reality. Even if Qin Guang had an almost immortal body's regenerative ability, which allowed him to quickly recover no matter how heavy his injuries were, he still couldn't cause the slightest bit of damage to his opponent. Time passed bit by bit. Although only 10 minutes had passed in the undying god of war. No, it should be the undying sandbag Qin Guang's heart. It felt as if 17 or 18 years had passed. He really couldn't remember how many times he had been on the verge of death. This was even more painful and unbearable than directly exploding on the spot in the world in a cup. At least in the world in a cup his pain was weakened. But today in this place, every injury he suffered was real without any discount. He felt that perhaps before his body couldn't take it, his mind would collapse first. But he didn't come out empty-handed because he finally found a flaw in this guy. How could this guy's body, which was completely made of stone, be so agile? It completely defied common sense. The key to this was the buzzing sound that came from its limbs and other important parts of its body and joints every time it moved violently. Chapter 786. Although elemental creatures were made up of rock, the difference between them and humans was that they had no muscles. Its entire body was made of rock, which was equivalent to its skeleton. But it also had joints. Before, the earth tremor's body had always been in a state of flow. Whether it was its joints or its body, they were all in a state of flow. Its torso was full of gaps, and its body was supported by the unique power of elemental creatures. Therefore, although the earth tremor's absolute speed far exceeded that of ordinary people, whether it was Qin Guang or Xianxia, they could more or less suppress it in speed. Compared to its kind, the Earth Ripper, the tremor was much more cumbersome. Its body was sometimes hard and sometimes soft, but even at its toughest, it could not be compared to the Earth Ripper. The Earth Ripper was completely different from its kind. The dark blue rock that made up its body was extremely hard. The experience with the Qilin arm told Qin Guang that the hardness of its body was definitely far above ordinary steel, and it also had a certain degree of flexibility. It was simply perfect. But the flexibility of its rock body was not enough to support its intense and flexible movements, so its joints must be flexible. In the beginning, Qin Guang didn't notice it, but every time the Terra Ripper attacked, there would be a strange buzzing sound coming from its joints. Initially he didn't pay much attention to it, but he gradually shifted his attention to it. After enduring countless slashes, Qin Guang's gaze was fixed on the joints of the Terra Ripper. After paying a painful price, Qin Guang finally confirmed his judgment. Although the other parts of the Terra Ripper's body were tough, its joints weren't indestructible. On the contrary, they felt like a gel that would compress, twist, and wrinkle along with its movements. It was similar to a human's joints, but there were also some differences. Human joints usually required tendons, bones, muscles, and other components to work together to achieve the purpose of movement. But the Earth Ripper's torso and limbs were made of a whole rock substance, without the traction of tendons, bones, and muscles. It was also not like the tremor, whose whole body was in a fluid state under the blessing of a mysterious power. The Earth Ripper might have similar elemental power, but the main effect was certainly different from the tremor. It was not regeneration but strengthening its body. At the same time, this also meant that almost all of its kinetic energy had to be supplied by its joints for every movement. Considering its weight and strength, the pressure on the colloid at its joints was at least several tons. Once he realized this problem, Qin Guang focused more of his attention on the Earth Ripper's joints. After a few observations, he made a new discovery. When it was preparing for a violent movement, its joints would go through a process of storing energy. The buzzing sound was produced when it was storing energy. The way it stored energy was not complicated. It was like a spring that was constantly compressed. When it was compressed to the extreme, it would shoot out with a loud bang, driving its body to make various movements. It was no wonder that this guy's absolute speed was not completely stable. Sometimes he was just a bit faster than Qin Guang, but sometimes he was so fast that people could not look at him directly. At first Qin Guang thought that it was holding back, but now it seemed that was not the case. It was just that this guy's movement characteristics were like this. The energy storage time and intensity were not enough, so it naturally could not burst out with amazing power. In addition, Qin Guang speculated that, with the passage of time, although its body was still indestructible, its joints might show signs of aging due to continuous compression and release. This kind of aging was not uncommon. Things like rubber or springs would also age after a long period of high-intensity use. Soft rubber would become hard and brittle and then crack and so on. Moreover, this aging process was often irreversible. As an elemental creature, the Earth Ripper certainly would not age irreparably. Perhaps after aging, it would be as good as new after a period of self-healing. But now, the long period of strenuous exercise had indeed brought great pressure to its joints. It did not give Qin Guang time to breathe, but Qin Guang, who was like an undying cockroach, also did not give it the slightest chance to breathe. He blocked in front of it again and again. As time passed, the buzzing sound from its limbs' joints became louder and louder. At first it sounded like a wasp flying, but gradually it became a sound like poking a hornet's nest. Later it even sounded like a machine cutting wood in a sawmill. Not only that, but the biggest change came from the color of the gelatin at its joints. Originally, the dark cyan joints of the Earth Ripper were in harmony with the other parts of its body, but gradually the dark cyan joints seemed to be plated with a layer of red, gradually turning from dark cyan to dark red. The red became brighter and brighter, as if it had just condensed into a faint glow of magma. This perverted brother can't hold on any longer. The idea in Qin Guang's mind was very simple. Now that he had an incredible regenerative ability, as long as he was careful not to be killed by the Earth Ripper in one shot, he would be able to steal a little breathing room. No matter how serious the injury was, he could quickly recover. It didn't matter how embarrassing or painful it was. He just had to hold on and exhaust the Earth Ripper to death. Since the Earth Ripper's joints are showing signs of not being able to hold on, then I only have one tactic: exhaust you to death. Exhaust you to death. Sure enough, as he expected, the longer he dragged on, the more obvious the red color of the Earth Ripper's joints became, and the louder the noise before each movement became. Although its triangular head had no facial features and no expression could be seen, Qin Guang could still perceive from its shaking head from time to time that it was gradually becoming impatient. This was also good news. It proved that although elemental creatures were not humans, they also had emotional fluctuations. Most importantly, Qin Guang now had the confidence to win after knowing that it had a flaw. Although he was still in a disadvantageous position, he had found the motivation and goal to persevere. He was no longer in despair like he did in the beginning. Come on, weakling, chop me to death. Really, you're pretending to be amazing. At best, you're just tickling me, okay? You're as weak as that great earthquake trembler. I just want to play with you. Otherwise, I can crush you to death with a finger, just like crushing an ant. Qin Guang was slashed in the thigh and his whole body flew out diagonally, but the trash talk in his mouth did not stop for a moment. It didn't matter whether it understood or not, as long as it could feel the old man's contempt for him. Let it be angry, let it go crazy, let it lose its mind, and never let it have the idea of completely getting rid of him and going straight up the mountain. To be honest, if the Earth Ripper really did that, he might not be able to stop it. Perhaps Qin Guang's verbal attack could really cross the barriers of race and language, causing 10,000 psychological trauma to the Earth Ripper. If it didn't chop this annoying cockroach that jumped up and down in its eyes, it really wouldn't be able to swallow it. Of course, it was also possible that killing Qin Guang was within the scope of its mission, just like the main mission of Qin Guang's 3 snakes. But the problem now was that it couldn't kill Qin Guang. Chapter 787. Qin Guang, who had finally grasped the knack of the undying punching bag, had firmly implemented a strategy. Protect my head, my heart, my neck. Alright, I have to protect my pile driver as well. As for the other parts, feel free to use them. In any case, I won't die. The silent Earth Ripper let out a series of whines. It was really anxious. Finally, after blocking a horizontal slash from the Earth Ripper with both hands, Qin Guang vaguely heard a crisp cracking sound. Although the bones of his palms were also shattered by the terrible force of the knife arm, ecstasy appeared on his face. "I've finally found you." When he looked over, he saw that a fine crack had appeared on the dark red elbow joint of this fellow's right blade arm. It was the second elbow bend on the inner side of the Z-shaped blade arm that was close to the shoulder. If it were not for Qin Guang's sharp eyes, he might not have been able to see it. But under the fiery eyes of the strongest god of darts in history, even the slightest crack could not hide. No wonder he could block this knife. This idiot's joints were broken and he did not use all his strength. Take advantage of his weakness and kill him. I can't give him a chance to heal this crack. In an instant, the clever and witty Lord Guang made a decision to turn the tables. It was time to blow the horn of a counterattack. Stamping his feet on the ground, he pounced forward. If he wanted to defeat the strong, he had to carry out the strategic policy used by the old men to the end. When the enemy advanced, he would retreat. When the enemy was strong, he would run. When the enemy was stronger, he would fight to the death. When the enemy was tired, he would be tough. When the enemy retreated, he would advance. When he rushed to the front of the Earth Ripper, he leaped into the air. Not caring that the joints of his palms were shattered, he simply stabbed his hands at the Earth Ripper like a military knife. The Earth Ripper seemed to know that it was in a bad situation. Instead of using a stronger offensive to suppress Qin Guang's assault, it actually took a step back. This was the first time Qin Guang had taken a step back since the start of the fight. This was a historic moment. This time Qin Guang discovered another flaw. The speed at which it retreated was incomparable to the speed at which it charged forward. Looking down, Qin Guang immediately understood. The Earth Ripper was an elemental creature that compressed its joints to obtain amazing explosive power, but it had to pay a price. Its special joint structure allowed it to sprint forward at an astonishing speed. But when it wanted to retreat, the efficiency of its joints' compression and energy storage suddenly dropped. It might not be worse than an ordinary person, but its opponent, Qin Guang, was not an ordinary person either. Therefore Qin Guang caught up with it. Qin Guang, who was in midair, stabbed his hands into the neck below the triangular head. Its neck wasn't long, but it was still in a gelatinous state. Although its neck didn't move much and there were no signs of redness or aging, it was still more reliable than looking for its stone head. Clang, clang, clang. Qin Guang's hands finally smashed down like hammers. It couldn't be helped. His bones were broken and he couldn't clench his fists. But it didn't matter. It was better if they were all broken. That way he could still use the broken bones as a dagger. Let me tell you, my brother Guang doesn't talk much. He doesn't show his ruthlessness easily. When he does, even I'm afraid of myself. However, the bloody fact proved that even the seemingly soft gelatinous body had terrifying toughness. It wasn't that it was hard, but it was extremely tough. After Qin Guang's broken palm hit it, it could only make it tremble slightly at most. Qin Guang's own Qilin arm was completely shattered, and even his palm flew away. Qin Guang's broken bones stabbed it, but it still couldn't pierce through. The Earth Ripper let out another cry, as if it was feeling proud that Qin Guang's desperate attack was futile. It quickly raised its left hand and swung its blade-like arm, threatening Qin Guang's forehead. Idiot, do you really think I'm so brainless? Retracting his neck, Qin Guang lowered his body and dodged the blade in that fellow's left hand. When he landed on the ground, he stood less than half a meter away from the demonic beast's chest. The corner of his eyes drifted to the left as he stared at the second elbow of the demonic beast, which showed signs of closing. Sure enough, as I expected, once these aging joints exceed a certain limit, it will choose not to use these joints anymore. It will naturally heal itself slowly over time. But how can I let you get what you want? Take this. Eat my bone crusher hammer. In fact, there was no hammer. It was still the bone spur in his left hand. In such a short time, about 1/3 of the flesh and broken bones that had fallen to the ground had floated up and condensed into his 2 broken hands. But there was still a sharp thorn sticking out. With the resolute strength of the Qilin arm, he fiercely inserted the broken bone in his left hand into the crack on the Earth Ripper's joint. The broken bone accurately pierced the crack, forcibly breaking it open a little, and continued to penetrate deeper until it could no longer move an inch. Immediately, Qin Guang fiercely twisted his hand, forcibly leaving a small piece of his broken bone in the crack. After succeeding in one move, he did not continue to fight. He shrunk his neck and turned sideways, ejecting to the right, intending to avoid the Earth Ripper's knee. At the same time, he found that there was also a crack on the gelatin of the Earth Ripper's right knee. Qin Guang, who was preparing to run away, simply stopped running. He gritted his teeth again and met the knee strike head-on. The broken bone in his right hand fiercely stabbed forward, leaving a piece of broken bone in the Earth Ripper's knee. In order to be greedy, the knee strike first shattered the bones in his right hand and then hit his chest. His whole body flew back 7 or 8 meters and hit a tree behind him. This time he was finally seriously injured. More than half of his ribs were broken, his heart was almost ruptured, and his lungs were pierced by a number of broken bones. The word, miserable, was not enough to describe it. But he was smiling. Eat my arthritis. With a roar, he pounced forward without a care. Along the way, his clothes were stained with blood and his bones were sent flying. As he strode forward, the pieces of flesh and broken fingers scattered on the ground floated up under the power of the Holy Grail, gathering towards Qin Guang like a tired bird returning to the forest. It was exactly the same as when the Earth Ripper was circulating with the earth. If there was anyone else here, they would be scared to death. This was actually the ultimate form of the Earth Ripper's supreme regenerative ability. The more serious the injury, the faster the recovery. It was completely unreasonable. By the time Qin Guang reached the Earth Ripper, his hands that had been almost completely shattered had already grown a bloody skeleton. The broken bones in the Earth Ripper's joints were gone. It didn't matter, he could still grow new ones. The ribs that had pierced into his lungs and his chest had almost all returned to their place, and his heavily injured heart was as good as new. The Earth Ripper subconsciously wanted to raise its right arm, but the buzzing sound came from its joints again. It was really about to collapse from the harassment of this flea, but it couldn't kill it no matter how hard it hit. If it weren't for the restrictions of the laws that created it, it would have turned around and fled. This guy definitely couldn't catch up to it. With a crisp cracking sound, a second crack appeared on the second crook of its right elbow, which was already cracked in the first place. This greatly reduced the strength of its blade. This time Qin Guang dodged it more easily. The arthritis tactic really worked. Qin Guang's right hand, which had regrown flesh, clenched into a fist and punched the Earth Ripper's neck. Although it still couldn't hurt it, it staggered. He raised his leg and stepped on the gelatinous knee. Kick of the Aeolus showed its might, and the crack on the burning knee burst open again. The Earth Ripper limped back a few steps. Its instincts told it to escape, but the laws that created it forced it to move forward bravely. But how could an elemental creature violate the laws? In the end, it could only yield to the laws, even if it had to fight with its life on the line. Its triangular head was raised high, looking up at the sky, and the whistling sound of the cold wind sounded from every part of its body. An invisible strong wind surged around it, sweeping in all directions with it as the center, just like the whirlwind when it was born. An ear-piercing buzzing sound came from its body again, louder than ever before. It was like the sound of locusts swarming everywhere, making people feel like they were on the verge of collapsing. Qin Guang could clearly see that every joint on this guy's body was emitting a red light that was rapidly becoming brighter, resembling a red-hot soldering iron. It knew that if it dragged on like this, it would definitely die, so now this guy was going all out. But you're too late. I can't escape, and I can't escape either. Since it's going all out, I'm afraid its speed will at least recover to its previous strength. Then, let's see if it'll chop me into minced meat first, or if I'll forcefully exhaust its joints until they explode. Qin Guang stomped heavily on the ground with the tip of his foot. His entire body turned into a streak of blood-red light, and he suddenly pounced forward. The Earth Ripper's twin blades recovered their previous speed, swinging out countless blades of light that swept towards Qin Guang like quicksilver. Unlike the previous dodging and evading, this time Qin Guang chose to fight to his heart's content, just to exhaust this guy's joints faster. The bald figure and the dark green mantis-like Earth Ripper flickered in and out of a narrow area of a dozen meters. Loud sounds of collision could be heard from time to time. Bursts of bloody mist exploded, billowing smoke and dust filled the sky. The bloody mist and smoke mixed together and even sunlight couldn't penetrate it. These exploding bloody mist were all caused by Qin Guang's injuries, and the flying smoke and dust were only the sand on the ground. But after the bloody mist dispersed, it didn't fall to the ground, but instead swirled in midair and gathered somewhere in the middle. About 15 minutes later the sound finally stopped. Only his head, waist and thighs still had flesh and blood left. Qin Guang stood proudly in place like a broken skeleton. In front of him, the insufferably arrogant Earth Ripper had been broken into 17 or 18 pieces scattered on the ground. Its triangular mantis-like head had been stepped on by Qin Guang's skeletal feet, and its limbs had long been broken into several pieces. Qin Guang's skeletal hands had smashed a head-sized hole in its rocky torso, and inside the hole were countless shattered dark green crystals. Qin Guang silently opened his palm, and a bright dark green crystal was stuck in the middle of his palm bone. This was what he had just pulled out from the Earth Ripper's chest. Countless broken bones and flesh floated up from the ground within a dozen meters, defying gravity and gathering towards his body. His hands, feet, waist and chest were reformed like Lego bricks. A few minutes later, when his whole body was fully restored, Qin Guang finally couldn't help but grin. Damn it, fighting with me. I'm the one who has the last laugh. He couldn't help but feel proud. In a sense, this was the strongest enemy he had defeated so far. It was hard to describe the bitterness and danger he had experienced. Just now he almost pressed the Earth Ripper to the ground and used its blade-like arms to cut off its head. It was also at that crucial moment that the bone fragments he buried in the Terror Ripper's right elbow and knee played a crucial role, constantly grinding and colliding with each other. It was like a patient suffering from rheumatism with tophus growing in their knee joints. The Terror Ripper's joints instantly collapsed, allowing Qin Guang to seize the opportunity to escape and dislocate the Terror Ripper's limbs, successfully killing it. Just by looking at the clothes scattered all over the ground that had almost turned into powder, one could imagine the intensity of the battle. Injuries that were enough to kill an ordinary person thousands of times over, and having his clothes burst into powder, it really couldn't be more tragic. This should be a lime-flavored fruit candy, right? Picking up the dark cyan crystal and looking at it for 3 seconds, Qin Guang threw it into his mouth without thinking. He licked it and bit it. It was really a standard lime-flavored crystal, not bad. He looked back in the direction of the mountain. He didn't know if Xianxia and Lu Fei had reached the communication base. The mechanical hive mind that Azure mentioned couldn't drop the ball at this critical moment. The old man is counting on you. Forget it, I'll just go up and take a look. So what if I'm naked? It's not like I did it on purpose. The old man is so strong that he can't be covered with leaves. How can a real warrior protect his clothes when he's fighting for his life? Running naked isn't my fault, it's fate's fault. He raised his leg and was about to go up the mountain. He stomped his foot and cursed. Damn you! Can you give me a break? It turned out that at this moment, the Heavenly Holy Grail's notification came again. 5th trial, survive the paragon of the Earth's attack. He couldn't help but curse. I'm on the verge of collapsing from the shredder, and I haven't even had a minute to catch my breath, and you've got a paragon? Just the name alone was enough to scare people. Besides, this isn't a main mission, it's just a test. You're telling me to survive its attack? Thank you so much for being so humane. The Grail didn't seem to care about his complaints. The electronic voice rang in his mind again. Countdown to Paragon's attack. Here it comes. So fast. 2, 1. This time he even saved 3 seconds from the countdown. The ground abruptly trembled, causing Qin Guang's body to stagger. In that instant he felt as if the earth was shaking, as if it was a real earthquake. The paragon was coming. The shaking grew more violent and the earth rippled like waves. He was in a half-squat horse stance, but it felt like he was surfing. He turned his head to look around and saw that the trees around him were all crooked and swaying like drunkards. As tree after tree collapsed, the ground Qin Guang was standing on began to rise. really was an earthquake. Qin Guang was on full alert. He steadied himself in the midst of the violent shaking and looked around cautiously. The hills nearby were getting shorter and the position he was standing on was getting higher. He had risen at least 30 meters before he slowly came to a stop. Qin Guang turned his head to look in every direction. He found himself standing on a dirt slope. Where's the paragon of the earth? Motherfucker, come out and die. Bang. The dirt slope beneath him exploded. Perhaps it wasn't an explosion, but more like the sound of a bird breaking out of its shell. But this time it was much more violent. Two giant arms at least 6 meters thick stretched out from the dirt slope. They spun in a circle and the dirt that covered the slope scattered to the sides. When the dust settled, Qin Guang finally realized he was standing on the head of the paragon of the earth. This thing had come out of the dirt slope. It was huge. Chapter 788. While Qin Guang's thoughts were running wild, one of the giant arms suddenly bent and swung towards Qin Guang like a canopy that covered the sky. Qin Guang hurriedly leapt to the side, jumping off the head of the giant creature. The ruler of Earth's palm slapped its own head heavily. A loud rumble rang out, accompanied by a creaking sound. It seemed that the ruler of Earth didn't know that Qin Guang was on top of its head, treating it like a flea. The ruler of Earth thought it was like swatting a fly, but Qin Guang was in trouble. Although it was just jumping off someone else's head, this person was 30 meters tall. If it was a shorter one, it would be as tall as a 10-story building. With a pious sound, his entire body slammed into the ground in a very unsightly position. It wasn't convenient to describe its appearance, but it definitely wasn't very appetizing. Qin Guang lay on the ground like a pancake. He wanted to get up and run, but the pancake didn't have a spatula and couldn't move on its own. The ruler of Earth scratched its head briefly, then began to look around as if trying to find its target. It looked around but there was nothing. Unlike the tremblers and rippers, the ruler of Earth didn't have eyes on its head, but there were 2 large holes on the lower part of its stone head. These should be its nostrils, and there was a constant whistling sound coming from these 2 holes. It seemed to be sniffing hard as if it could smell the scent of blood in the air, as well as the body odor of its target. In that case, the target should be nearby. But why can't I see it? It was clear that the ruler of Earth's intelligence was much higher than the tremblers and rippers, and its movements were more human-like. When it couldn't find Qin Guang, it even seemed to be at a loss. It didn't have any expression, but it gave off such a strange feeling. It raised its leg and pulled it out of the mud, then took a step forward. The giant creature lowered its head again, searching the ground for a moment, but still found nothing. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A murmur came from its head, but no one could understand it. It was probably saying something like, "What the hell," or, "Where did he go?" Silently, Qin Guang thought to himself, "Big brother, I'm right under your feet. It'd be a miracle if you could find me." Thankfully, after eating the Earth Ripper's lime fruit candy, he had already digested the Ripper's energy and absorbed it into his body in a short period of time. At this time, although the other parts of his body had been smashed due to the fall, he relied on his hands to cushion the impact and protect his head. When the ruler of Earth raised its leg and stomped down, the shredder's skull was exceptionally tough. Not only did it not shatter under the ruler's foot, it also left a deep impression in the mud. He wouldn't die, but his breathing was a little discomfort. And the ruler of Guang felt that his body was being pressed down. After another 10 seconds, the ruler of Earth finally moved the annoying giant leg away. Master Guang, who had fully recovered, saw the light of day once more. The ruler of Earth continued to walk forward. The ground rumbled and Qin Guang, who had just recovered, bounced up. Standing behind the ruler of Earth, Qin Guang finally had a chance to see the creature's entire form. Including its head, it was more than 30 meters tall, and its entire body was made up of a dark purple rock. Apart from the 2 giant arms he'd seen earlier, the creature had 6 arms, densely spread out on both sides of its body like a spider. Qin Guang thought to himself, "This thing is so big. I wonder what its weaknesses are and what its strengths are. Is it just big? Then it should be easy to deal with." Haha, the old man now has the crazy regeneration ability of the Trembler, the super hard body of the Shredder, and the explosive strength of the Shredder. Don't be fooled by your size. I'll try to dismantle a Gundam with my bare hands today. Just as he was thinking this, The ruler of Earth in front of him seemed to become impatient and angry because it couldn't find its target no matter what. After another round of howling, it stomped its two giant legs on the ground as if venting its anger. This was too much. The ground shook violently, and the trees that had already fallen due to the earthquake were completely trampled into powder. Still not satisfied, the ruler of Earth stretched out its 6 giant arms and scratched the ground, as if it wanted to find Qin Guang even if it had to dig 3 feet into the ground. In fact, Qin Guang was quite happy to see this silly thing acting like a fool. Anyway, his mission was to buy time for Liuli, who was on the mountain. Although he wasn't too sure how she planned to use the mechanical hive mind, it didn't matter. Since she had made a solemn promise, it meant that she was quite confident. She should have a target in mind and not be bragging for no reason. However, this thing was making too much noise and the ground was shaking too violently. Looking at the signal tower in the distance, which was also swaying, Qin Guang was really worried. If this thing shakes down the signal tower, who can I reason with? Otherwise, I should make some noise and see if I can attract its attention. Just as he was thinking this, Qin Guang suddenly felt his body become light, and his whole body inexplicably flew up. Could it be that the shredder still has the ability to fly, but the old man was too ferocious before it could use it? Looking around, he realized that he was wrong. It wasn't that he had flown up, but the rock he was standing on had floated up. Not only that, but as far as the eye could see, it wasn't just the rock beneath his feet, but the soil and rocks in the entire area were all flying up in unison. Looking around, the sky and ground were filled with boulders and soil floating in the air, as if the gravity within a few miles had disappeared. That wasn't right. Although the ground had become a layer thinner, the trees that had collapsed earlier were still dangling miserably on the ground. It wasn't that there was no gravity, but that these soil and rock structures had been controlled by the ruler of Earth with a mysterious power. As expected of the ruler of Earth, she lived up to her reputation. So powerful. The old man left first. It didn't matter if the signal tower collapsed. With Lady Lioli's ability, even if there was no signal tower, she would definitely be able to build another one. This thing actually has such a superpower. Should I fight it with my head? He took a step forward and planned to jump down, but before he landed he felt his body become light and he floated up with the soil. What's going on? Does it mean that I've eaten the cores of the earth shaker and the shredder, and I've been infected with the characteristics of the earth element? Is that why I'm being controlled by the ruler of Earth? Come to think of it, it's a bit of a scam. He wasn't in the mood to complain. His whole body involuntarily floated up into the air with the soil and gravel. Moments later, the ground within a few miles thinned by at least 4 or 5 meters. Dirt and gravel, big and small, floated up into the air. The ruler of Earth looked around again. Although it had no eyes, it seemed to be able to see everything in front of it. It was trying to find traces of Qin Guang among the floating gravel and dirt. Qin Guang curled up behind a meter-high boulder. His body was light and his back was pressed tightly against the rock. His whole body floated parallel to the boulder so he wouldn't fall. It was just enough to block the ruler's line of sight. "Idiot, you want to find me? Not so easy." But as he gloated, the boulder in front of him suddenly flew away without warning. Looking around, Qin Guang discovered that it wasn't just the boulder in front of him, but all the dirt and gravel floating in the air were converging toward the sky above the ruler of Earth's head. In the blink of an eye, a huge ball appeared in the sky. The sand on the ball danced all over the sky and slowly rotated. Coupled with the posture of the Lord of the Earth with his arms raised high, it looked like Sun Wukong in Dragon Ball releasing spirit bombs. This time Qin Guang no longer had any cover around him. He had some earth elemental energy on him, but it wasn't strong enough. The ruler of Earth could allow him to float, but it couldn't gather him into a sphere like the other soil and stones. From a distance, Qin Guang and the old man looked at each other. The atmosphere was a little awkward. "Hi." Waving his hand, Qin Guang was just short of saying "nice to meet you." The ruler of Earth's 2 large nostrils exhaled a puff of white air. It wasn't clear if it was feeling pleased or glad that it had finally caught him. But it clearly didn't understand Qin Guang's kindness. In the next instant, the floating sphere that had gradually shrunk to a diameter of more than 100 meters flew diagonally towards Qin Guang. It was impossible to dodge. Qin Guang's pupils shrank. Although he seemed to be acting cute in front of the ruler of Earth, He had actually been focusing most of his attention on developing and evaluating the superpower he had temporarily gained. Lord Light, who was well versed in web novels and anime, said that even if it was the same superpower, the power displayed was related to the user's level of development. Just like the Sharingan in Naruto, it was strong at the beginning, but slowly couldn't keep up with the rhythm. Later on, all kinds of kaleidoscopes appeared and became cool again. Or Luffy's devil fruit in One Piece. It was weak at the beginning, but Luffy continued to develop the rubber fruit's ability. First gear, second gear, third gear and fourth gear he was invincible in the Grand Line. Qin Guang knew that he didn't have much time to slowly level up, because the opponent he was facing, the ruler of Earth, was a max-level boss. Therefore, if he wanted to win, he had to use his brain and adapt to the superpower of the Tremor and Ripper elemental creatures in his body as quickly as possible. The Tremor had the ability to regenerate, and even if it was scattered, it could reform its body. The Ripper had the ability to be hard and explosive. Its blade-like arms were incomparably sharp, and the explosive power after compressing the joints was also strong enough to make people's hair stand on end. These two abilities seemed contradictory, but if they could be ingeniously fused together, it could produce an extraordinary chemical reaction. Chapter 789. In the face of the Paragon's ferocious attack, Qin Guang's face split into a grin. Tremble, weak scum. His hands shot out, his fingertips glinting with a cold light. His claws dug into the ball as if he didn't care for his life. As the giant ball slammed into him, Qin Guang's hands dug a hole in its surface. That's right, he'd applied the sharpness of the Earth Ripper's arms to his own hands. His claws were hard and sharp and he was like a human excavator. The ball smashed into the ground with a resounding boom, but Qin Guang was still suspended in the air. His hands had dug a hole in the surface of the ball. In this extremely short period of time he actually managed to dig through the ball. The speed at which he dug the hole was as fast as the speed at which the ball came. If he only had his Qilin arms, it would have been impossible for him to dig at such a frightening speed. However, he had used the Ripper's ability to compress his joints to increase his explosive power. Needless to say, it was extremely useful. His joints were like a small electric motor shaking like a sieve. What's even scarier is that unlike the Ripper's gelatinous joints that age, Lord Light says that my joints can heal on their own and won't rot. After unleashing its ultimate skill, the Paragon of Earth's control over the Earth seemed to have waned. Qin Guang's buoyancy dissipated and he slowly floated back to the ground. Although the Paragon's size was frightening, and its special abilities were dazzling, they weren't unlimited. There was a cooldown. When Qin Guang landed, he didn't give the Paragon time to catch his breath. If he allowed the Paragon to float, he wouldn't be able to move again. His knees buckled and Qin Guang shot forward like a bolt of lightning. This time he was even faster than the Ripper. He was a blur, and in the blink of an eye he was at the Paragon's feet. Wind God's kick combined with the Ripper's abilities was amazing. Qin Guang felt that he could even beat Wen now. Without a second thought he reached out and grabbed the Paragon's foot. His fingers dug deep into the creature's skin, and he began to climb up like a rock-climbing wall. Finally, Qin Guang stopped at the Paragon's calves. He hardened his legs and dug them into the rock. Directly in front of him was the Paragon's knees. Without hesitation, Qin Guang stretched out his demon claws and scratched the spot. I'll catch him. I scratch. I'll scratch, scratch, scratch. The enemy was too big and Qin Guang's words came true. If he said he wanted to dismantle the Gundam with his bare hands, he could only dismantle the Gundam with his bare hands. The Paragon of Earth didn't feel pain, but how could he not be annoyed by the fleas tickling? Boom. He slapped his huge palm on his knee as if he was swatting a mosquito. In a way, he really was swatting a mosquito. For a moment, Qin Guang was nothing more than a bloody mark on the Paragon's knee. But after a few moments the Paragon was back to life. He continued to scratch without explanation until he dug through. Poor Paragon of Earth. Despite its strength, it was helpless against an enemy it couldn't kill. It hopped and even slammed its knee into the ground. But it was all in vain. 10 minutes later, the Paragon of Earth's body trembled. It fell to its knees, half kneeling. Qin Guang had dug a hole through one of its knees. The Paragon used its discipline again, trying to lift Qin Guang into the air. But the flea had already switched legs. It clung to the knee and continued to dig. An hour passed and the paragon was dead. Grapefruit-flavored fruit candy, sweet and delicious. Liuli, are you done? Wait a bit longer. Qin Guang looked at the black, smoky figure in front of him. Yes, it was called the Destroyer of Earth. It was strong, terrifying, and frightening. It stood there motionless, sinking deeper and deeper into the earth. It was as if its destructive discipline was based on corrosion. But it wasn't just corrosion. The earth beneath it disintegrated into fine powder that drifted in all directions like smoke. This was the power of decomposition, and it was very powerful. Then Qin Guang dealt with the Destroyer of Earth. The method wasn't complicated. All Qin Guang had to do was wait until the destroyer had completely sunk into the ground. Then he sent the paragon's condensed mud to the destroyer, burying it alive. Strictly speaking, this wasn't burying him alive, but the Earth Destroyer didn't seem to be able to control its decomposition and destruction ability. Hence, it was exhausted to death by the soil that Qin Guang was constantly sending over. Qin Guang was embarrassed. He hadn't expected to combine his regenerative powers with his discipline. Earth manipulation didn't have a cooldown. It was a bit of a bully. Blackcurrant-flavored fructose, crunchy. At this moment, Qin Guang had a total of 4 abilities fused into his body. Earthquake Tremors Regeneration, Ripper's Super Hard Body and Tear, Paragon's Earth Manipulation, and Destroyer's Earth Disintegration. He felt like he had become Superman. If God stood in his way, he would kill God and Buddha. He was just that strong, just that arrogant, just that unreasonable. He silently turned around and looked at the signal tower at the top of the mountain. Master Guang thought to himself, according to the typical online game, I should be at max level and have gathered a full set of godly equipment. It's time for Lori to open the passage and enter the real world of punishment, right? A mere world of punishment wasn't worth mentioning. It didn't matter what kind of opponents Xue Lin, Wu Miaowan, and the others encountered in the world of punishment. The old driver was fearless. The old man had 4 superpowers. He could crush them all in minutes. Lady Lori, are you done yet? I've already taken care of all the opponents. Qin Guang was about to go up the mountain. Unexpectedly, Lori replied anxiously, I'm afraid you'll have to wait a little longer. It's a little difficult. It's fine. I can wait. Qin Guang replied in his heart. All right. I've just taken care of a guy called Earth Destroyer. I now have 4 godly skills. Lori was burning with impatience and couldn't be bothered with him. There's a new guy called Earth Chaotic Being? Hurry up, Lori. I'm about to have a bumper harvest here. Qin Guang smiled as he bragged to Liuli in his heart. At the same time, he looked at the so-called chaos being before him and thought to himself, the candies given by this brother are probably dragon fruit flavored. Unexpectedly, he heard Lori's panicked roar in his mind. Not good. Hurry and run. What's wrong? You're not a match for Earth Chaotic Being. You're definitely not a match for it. Hurry and run. Don't get caught by it. Hold on a little longer. I'll open a passage here as soon as possible. Then you can come over and escape into the world of punishment. Qin Guang was surprised. Really? Is it that scary? It's that scary. You'll be dead if you get caught. When have I ever joked with you? Qin Guang looked at the red ball in front of him. It seemed to be glowing like a human heart. Thinking about it carefully, Lori probably wouldn't joke about such an important matter. In other words, if she said that he was not a match for it, then he would definitely lose. The old man wasn't feeling well. He had to leave first. Run. Chapter 790. Meanwhile, on the mountaintop, ever since Xianxia and Lu Fei came up, Xianxia first used her 1000 Despair Sect's secret manual to unlock the reinforced security door of the communication base station. The 2 of them entered the room and took out the strange water cup according to Qin Guang's instructions and placed it on the equipment cabinet. After that, the 2 of them thought of returning to the mountainside to check on Qin Guang's situation. Xianxia especially felt that she was skilled in martial arts, so she was unwilling to be left out. However, Liuli had already anticipated this situation. In order to prevent the 2 of them from going down the mountain and disturbing Qin Guang, Liuli had already asked Lu Ming to use the power of the Holy Grail that she controlled after fusing with the Heavenly Holy Grail to completely seal off the house of the communication base station. Although the security door could be opened, there was an invisible barrier that could not be seen but could be felt at the door, firmly blocking the door. Xianxia and Lu Fei couldn't get out at all. Even if they tried to jump out of the window, it was useless. They were still bounced back. Ever since they came to the foot of Mount Burrell, the two of them had seen countless unnatural phenomena that were beyond their understanding. At this time they were no longer surprised. The loud rumbling sound from the mountainside did not stop. Although the two of them were frightened, there was nothing they could do. Qin what's going on now? Lu Fei sat cross-legged in the corner of the floor of the communication base station, rubbing her hands together continuously. Xianxia opened her mouth, but she didn't know how to explain it to her. If I say I don't know, you won't think that I'm fooling you, right? Lu Fei shook her head. How could that be? By the way, I heard from Uncle Tai Xinju that Miss Xian is also a martial artist? What kind of people in the martial arts world are they? If it was the Xianxia of the past, she wouldn't even bother to respond to an ordinary person who asked her such a question. But now Xianxia knew that Lu Fei was also Qin Guang's friend, and that perverted bureau chief probably cared a lot about this hot, rich young lady. In a sense, she was also considered one of them. Actually, there's nothing special about it. We've been brought up by people with special abilities since we were young. Then, regardless of whether we're willing or not, there would be a person or a group of people who would constantly tell us that you're a genius, that you're a peerless genius selected from thousands of people, and that only you can inherit the unique technique of the martial arts sect. This sect or family has been passed down for so many years. We raised you, and the meaning of your life is to restore this sect to its former glory. In this way, day after day, year after year, we learn the skills that our elders taught us. In the process of learning, our elders would constantly tell us that there are countless people who want to learn these skills, but they are not valued, they are not trusted, and they do not have the talent to learn these skills like we do. We are different. We are powerful. People like you, Sister Lu Fei, should be ordinary people in our eyes. People like you, Sister Lu Fei, should be ordinary people in our eyes. Some martial arts sects are more extreme. In the eyes of these sects, ordinary people are equivalent to ants or even tools. The meaning of ordinary people's existence is to serve people in the martial arts world. But my master is not like this. My master told me that although ordinary people don't have the talent to practice martial arts, in other words, we're actually just ordinary people with a little more talent. It's true that we can jump higher and run faster, but ordinary people are human beings and we are also human beings. There's no difference in essence. Ordinary people need to get married and have children to support their families, but the responsibility on the shoulders of martial arts practitioners is different. We don't have to get married and have children, and we don't have to support our families. But our family is the sect, and the meaning of our existence is to carry forward the sect, or to continue the family line. Perhaps the special situation made Xianxia let go of the knot in her heart, and she said a lot in one breath. Lu Fei listened with great interest but also felt that it was unbelievable. Isn't getting married and having children important? Isn't having children to continue the family line? That's what all human beings do. Xianxia shook her head. Only some clan-based forces would pay special attention to marriage and having children. For ordinary sects, the talent to practice martial arts can't be inherited. Take me for example. Although I'm the most talented disciple in the Thousand Despair sect, if I have children, my children may not be able to practice martial arts. To practice martial arts, one's innate talent, understanding, and opportunities are all very important, and none of them can be missing. The way we continue the family line is to train disciples, and let them inherit our martial arts skills. That's considered carrying on the family line. This is not the same as the worldview of ordinary people, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. What about Qin Guang? What kind of person had he become now? I have a feeling that this incident has something to do with him, right? Lu Fei asked again. Xianxia nodded. It has something to do with him, but you asked me what kind of person he has become. I don't know. I didn't know before, but now I can be a little more certain. What? He's a more special existence than martial arts practitioners. He's the stinky director who hides 10,000 secrets. Xianxia murmured fiercely. Whether it was the strange change in Qin Guang's innate talent when he was bathing or what happened in Wuduo town today, it all proved that Qin Guang's secrets were bigger than the sky. Sigh, but I saw that his expression when he asked us to go up the mountain didn't look right. I hope nothing happens to him at the foot of the mountain. The mountain began to shake again and Lu Fei was even more worried. Don't worry. Good people don't live long, but bad people live for 1,000 years. How can a sinister person like the stinky director die so easily? Alright, thank you for your kind words. Lu Fei was not used to Xen Qin's ironic style, so she just thought that she was praying for Qin Guang. At that moment, Qin Guang's phone vibrated in Xen Qin's hand. She picked it up and saw that it was a voice message from Wu Miaowan. Little darling. Not good. We've been ambushed. The entire Wuduo town is filled with people from the shattered world. We were ambushed when we were halfway there. These people are so scary, they're all monsters. They've all turned into monsters. Master stopped them and I escaped. Little darling, don't come here with the director. Think of a way to get reinforcements. We're no match for them at all. Not good, they're coming. I have to escape. Don't come. Please don't come. Wu Miaowan's tone sounded very urgent and panicked. It was not hard to imagine how bad her situation was. Xen Qin quickly sent a few messages, but Wu Miaowan did not reply. She did not know if she was dead or alive. What should I do? What should I do now? Xen Qin tried her best to use her brain to figure out the situation that Wu Miaowan was talking about. There must be a problem with the information. Of course, under normal circumstances, no one would have thought that the shattered world had taken control of the entire Wutuo town. Besides that, she did not know if the monsters that Wu Miaowan mentioned were the same as the Earth Ripper and Earth Tremor that they had encountered on the way. If that was the case, it would be too scary. Xen Qin had never felt so hopeless before, but everything was out of her control. She had no idea what to do. Just one Earth Tremor or Earth Ripper was enough to send her and Qin Guang into a frenzy. Even now, the commotion coming from the mountainside had not calmed down. It even felt like the ground was shaking. If everyone in Wutuo town was that scary, what should they do? Just the two of them, Qin Guang and herself, should they go and rescue them? Should they think of a way to get reinforcements? Would the reinforcements be of any use? Would they make it in time? Besides, even if they managed to get reinforcements, how were they going to get there? Xen Qin was at a loss. She turned to look at the cup on the equipment cabinet. Qin Guang's Batman cup cover was a little old, making the cup look even more ordinary. She really did not understand what Qin Guang's intentions were. Her subconscious told her that Qin Guang would not do something meaningless. Was he just trying to get the two of them to take refuge here? Impossible. If he really wanted to take refuge, he might as well have the two of them turn around and run. Perhaps it would be more practical to go back to the town. There was no reason for him to deliberately hand this cup to her and specifically tell her to put it on the cabinet. He must have his intentions, and it must be related to how to enter the other Wutuo town. But I don't understand it all. Qin Guang, where are you now? What should we do? At this time, not to mention Xen Qin, even Lori was not much better. I say, Nicosi, this is your last chance. If you mess things up, I promise you that you will die a very rhythmic death. A fine thread that was invisible to the naked eye was spreading out from the bottom of the Holy Grail, extending to the communication base equipment under the Grail. Liuli's threat was transmitted through this thread, ringing in the ears of Nikoxi, who had completely fused with the equipment. Goddess, please don't interfere with my scientific research. What I want to do is use this communication base to crack the characteristics between two planes. Do you think it's as simple as 1 + 1 = 2? Please wait a moment, thank you. Soon. I am supervising you. Do you understand? This is a supervisor. Lori shouted fiercely. Nicosi had more or less understood the nature of this goddess. She thought indignantly, if it wasn't for the fact that she wanted a body that could be sensed, why would she work so hard for you? This kind of thing, besides me, who else can do it? Sister Lori, don't disturb her. I think she's working quite hard. She has to work hard and use her brain. It's not easy. Dear Mingguo was kind and spoke up for Nicosi at the right time. Nicosi was very moved. There were still people who knew what was good for them. Anyway, if she fails, she's finished and we're finished. We're all finished. Before we're finished, we'll torture her. The touched feeling in Nicosi's heart instantly vanished. Lori and Dear Mingguo's benevolence did not treat everyone equally. They were only a little patient when facing Qin Guang. As for Nicosi, although she had the precious mechanical heart, she had not shown enough value so far, unless she could turn this disaster into a blessing. At this time, in the communication base equipment that no one could see, the processor that was the core of the system flashed with light from time to time. This light shone on Nicosi's faintly discernible face. Chapter 791. At the same time, not only did Xianxia, who was in her spirit form, fuse with the processor, her entire soul turned into the form of a mechanical heart, extending along the integrated circuit board of the base station equipment. It was as if countless tentacles had formed, fusing the entire base station into her mechanical heart. After the complete fusion, she discovered the strangeness of the base station equipment. Its weight was sometimes light and sometimes heavy, and the outline of its internal components was sometimes clear, sometimes blurry, and sometimes completely nothingness, as if it did not exist in this world. It looked like a 3D projection, but sometimes it actually existed. This thing could travel between the two worlds. When it entered the other Utopia town, its form in this world was close to nothingness, and when it returned to the real world, it became nothingness in the other Utopia town. Xianxia was brought along by the base station equipment, swinging left and right like a pendulum at the border of the two worlds. She had never experienced such a feeling before. It was so wonderful that she was simply intoxicated and her mind was in a trance. Liuli's threat was still somewhat effective. At least it made her wake up, and she knew that she could not delay any longer. She had to quickly use her experience of traveling between the two worlds with the base station equipment to find a way to further stimulate the connection between the two worlds. She focused her mind, and in her mind, she was performing extremely profound calculations. However, the rules of the world were so complicated that it was impossible for an existence like her, who was only a mortal not long ago, to guess them. Even if she had the intelligence of a Frankenstein without enough accumulated knowledge, it was impossible for her to see through the mysteries. It was just like when people in ancient times got hold of a mobile phone, and you asked them to understand the principles behind the phone's photography. This was completely beyond the scope of her knowledge. Just as she was about to give up, she suddenly felt a signal as if it came from another world. In that instant, the communication base station rapidly blurred until it almost completely disappeared from this world, and its weight became 1/1000th of its actual existence. Then it quickly returned to normal, and its weight was close to the state when it completely existed, with only 1/1000th of its original weight. Why was that? After a brief moment of confusion, Xianxia happened to press the play button on WeChat and listened to the distress message that Wu Miaoan had just sent over with Lu Fei. So that was it. The communication base station first became blurry, as it had gone to another world to receive the signal. Then it returned to the real world and transported the phone signal back. The process sounded complicated, but it actually happened in less than a millisecond. If Xianxia had not transformed herself into a mechanical heart and completely fused with the base station equipment, she would not have been able to notice this instantaneous change. Being brought back and forth between the two realms, Nicole was like a researcher conducting a field trip, gaining a more quantitative understanding of the characteristics of the two realms. She also noticed that when Qin Guang's mobile phone needed to send a message, or when the other side's mobile phone needed to send a message, the base station would complete the task of transmitting the signal, and would travel between the two worlds more thoroughly. Many of the concepts that had been foggy in his mind when he was calculating and reasoning just now became clear little by little. She didn't dare to be negligent. She firmly grasped the fleeting inspiration in that instant and started to deduce in her heart. If she was still a mortal, her brain would not have been able to withstand such intense calculations and reasoning. But fortunately, she was already dead and had turned into a spirit body in the Holy Grail. At this moment, she had evolved into a mechanical heart and had fused with the processor core of the base station instrument. She could even use this processor to assist in calculations. At this moment, Nicole was like a living supercomputer. People in the Jianghu called her Mighty Taihu Light. She finally found the right direction to decipher the channel that had been stagnant, and she took the first solid step. This was how scientific research was. The most difficult thing was to take the right first step. Once the direction was found, the next step was to advance step by step. About 30 seconds later, Xianxia began to speak again. She sent several voice messages in succession. This was incredible. The base station equipment continued to travel between the two realms at a crazy speed. While Nicole screamed, her soul followed the base station equipment and traveled between the two realms many times in an extremely short period of time. Her head was dizzy from the shaking. It was really painful and happy at the same time. But she didn't come up empty-handed. Instead, she made a new discovery. The more complex the voice and content that Xianxia sent, the louder her voice was, the closer the base station equipment was to its limit when it traveled back and forth. especially the last voice message in which Xianxia screamed at the top of her lungs into the phone. When this signal was first transmitted, the base station equipment that had fused with the mechanical heart was almost exactly the same as the absolute weight of the real world. When the signal needed to be transferred to the other Utopia town, the weight of the equipment in the real world was even reduced to only a millionth of the absolute weight. Twice, Nicole almost touched the absolute boundary between the two worlds, infinitely close to the absolute existence of the real world and the absolute nothingness. These two extreme experiences immediately made many of the unclear concepts in her mind become much clearer. More importantly, she found a new way of thinking. Being able to use a microwave did not mean that one had to be able to emit microwaves. One just had to figure out how to connect the power and how to press the switch. Obviously, this communication base station would be affected by the strength of the cell phone's signal. The stronger the signal needed to be transmitted, the deeper the base station equipment needed to travel between the two worlds. This meant that when the signal's strength exceeded a certain limit, it was possible for the base station equipment to completely appear on the other side. Of course, it might still come back because this base station equipment was affected by both the Holy Grail and the Punishment Realm. It had the attributes of both worlds. At this moment, this set of equipment did not belong to the real world, nor did it belong to the Punishment Realm. Just like the moving electrons in the law of uncertainty, it could not exist stably in any world for a long time. Goddess, I have an idea. What idea do you have? Hurry up and tell me. Lioli was overjoyed and even her tone became amiable. As expected of the machinery hive mind. You didn't waste your efforts in nurturing this empress. Dear Cry's ridicule came faintly from the horizon. Sister Lioli, why can't I tell that you've nurtured Nicole? Shut up, Dear Cry. Don't make things difficult for me, thank you. Lioli shouted at Dear Cry, feeling wronged. Then she switched to her amiable and approachable look. Nicole, hurry up and tell me. I'm counting on you. Don't worry, this emperor is one of the 10 great emperors of the endless realm of the gods. This emperor has always been a man of his word. As long as you can give this emperor what I want and help Qin Guang avert danger, this emperor will definitely give you what you want. In the future, even if I confer you the title of godly venerable and grant you eternal life, it will not be a problem. Nicole had originally planned to ask for a sky-high price, but in the end, Lioli directly raised the price to the sky. Her mind was buzzing with the names Lioli mentioned. Endless realm of the gods. 10 great emperors. Godly venerable. Eternal life. With all of these, what was a mere physical body worth mentioning? Goddess, I just discovered that when Qin Guang's phone sends a message to the woman named Wu Miaoan who is in another world through WeChat, this base station equipment will shuttle between the two worlds and be used to transport the message. And then, Lioli and Dear Cry asked at the same time. The greater the amount of information sent by the phone, the deeper the base station will go into the other world. Right now, it's just a voice message and it's already enough to cause a strong fluctuation. In this subordinate's opinion, if a more concentrated, longer and larger signal can be sent over, it's very likely to completely activate the connection between the two worlds. And at that time, as long as I use the mechanical heart to control this base station equipment and explode it, I have at least a 99% chance of opening up the passage in one go. Lioli pondered for a moment. But this also means that there's only one chance of success, right? After all, it's gone if it explodes. Nicole nodded. Yes, there's only one chance. Can only succeed and not fail. Are you going to do it or not? Sister Lioli? Dear Cry hesitated slightly. Lioli gritted her teeth and said resolutely, there's no choice. Let's do it. Qin Guang is being chased around by the Earth Chaos Dominator, and if we don't do it once, we're all finished. At this time, Qin Guang was running quite boldly and uninhibited in the wild. He couldn't leave the vicinity of Utopia, but the bright red ball behind him was chasing him relentlessly. With no other choice, he could only run wildly around Utopia. Fortunately, although the Earth Chaos Dominator could fly, its speed was not terrifying. Although it was only a ball with a diameter of less than a meter, its mass was astonishing. Just now, when it accidentally hit a cement pole on the side of the road, the huge pole was directly blown away, but the Earth Chaos Dominator's flight path did not change at all. At this time, Qin Guang had 4 kinds of abilities. He combined the explosive power of the Ripper and the control of the Paragon into one. First he made himself as light as a swallow, reducing the weight on his body. Then he used the explosive power of the Ripper to take a step forward, and like a bolt of lightning he shot hundreds of meters forward. If it weren't for the terrible suction force coming from behind him from time to time, pulling him back, he would have left the Earth Chaos Dominator in the dust. Since Liuli said he was no match for it, Qin Guang did not want to bite the bullet and find out what it was capable of. For now, it seemed that the devouring ability of the Earth Chaos Dominator could not be avoided. What was even more annoying was that it seemed that as time went on, the strength of the Earth Chaos Dominator's devouring ability seemed to increase. At first he could still run forward against the suction force, then he staggered and then he staggered. Recently he had begun to be pulled back. If this continued, sooner or later he would be sucked into the Earth Chaos Dominator's body and eaten. Qin Guang. How's the situation? Liuli's sympathy came again. Qin Guang, who was running away in panic, expressed that there was true love in the world. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.